Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of By the Numbers, the quintessential Counterstrike podcast. I am your host, Richard Lewis. Joining me as he always does, it's the esports historian, Duncan Thorin Shields, Sam Davis, button presser extraordinaire. And we're, of course, all unbelievably warm. It's been too warm to stream. I literally haven't, I don't think I've done anything since the last episode of By the Numbers, because I like, it is this room. I turn on a light and it's like I'm back in Vegas, but of course I live in Britain and we haven't mastered air conditioning, so I have a fan. Well, actually, I'm being a little bit. I did throw out a perfectly good air conditioning unit, like an arsehole, when I moved back to Britain.
Why not?
But, so I won't be needing you no more. And I need the guy. Yeah,
I see what you mean.
I've absolutely fucked myself there. It was brilliant. It was.
I thought you meant, I didn't realize you meant because you were moving. It was yours. I thought you meant like you arrived and you were like, "What's this fucking air conditioning doing in the room? Get that out of here right now!"
No.
Destroy it, in fact, make it possible work again.
Shipped it all the way.
Really?
Yeah, just to fucking throw it out.
Silly then, bit to bring it all the way with you as well, and then be like, "Well, no way I'd need this, is there?"
Yeah, in many ways, I am a fucking cretin. I am as bad.
I don't get, right, mate. I've always had a problem, for obvious reasons, with like things that like concepts are like a bit abstract, certainly. And one of them I never understood. Like even when I was a kid, I never really understood temperature. Like I never understood why everyone was obsessed with what the temperature is each day. And this is what I'm going to ask you this, right? Because I've started trying to follow it, right? And in fact, most of the Samsung phones, the app they have on it that tells you the weather, even says like not just the temperature, it tells you what temperature it feels like, right? Here's the thing: those two numbers mean absolutely nothing, Richard. It can literally say it feels like 25, but here's what that's not relevant. If there's a breeze or something, it feels awesome. It could say 21 and have no breeze and be a nightmare. So the number means nothing. It's like, what is that number? It's fuck all.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I mean, first of all,
you know how it feels each day. I find, you have to just literally just experience it.
Yeah, it's because like there's all wind chill and stuff to take into consideration, as you say, but also humidity is the big one, mate.
Oh, for sure. That's what kills you in Korea, by the way. It's not really that's the hottest place in the world. It's that, mate, you just walk into a block of like, it feels like you're in a sauna. The air's you're almost like a brick wall,
It's why when we were doing E-League, but like it was fucking outrageous being sat out on that balcony, drinking.
Way too hot, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was fucking, but it was the heat wasn't even the issue. Like, it was way worse in Vegas in terms of heat. I mean, we had 110 degree Fahrenheit fucking summers like in August, but in Georgia, even though it's like 90s, low 90s, the humidity just fucking kills you, sticks to you. So yeah, that number does mean bollocks. But equally as well, it's like fucking. I've been saying for years. Obviously, we're gonna have these brutal summers. Like I knew they were coming. They were in the pipe, for obvious reasons. And I just got rid of my one out. Meanwhile, Sam bought an air conditioning unit. And whenever I talk to him, he goes, I'll tell you what you want, Rich. You want one of them air conditioning units?
Too cold in here, mate. Freezing.
I've been trying to do that thing I still do, I always say, which is like, you've got to... What's sad about being poor and coming from a poor background, having to be like super efficient, is it's like you have to jailbreak yourself on every single possible purchase. Like you get it like, right, I'll buy a proper steak, not the fucking rump steak, I'll buy the real. It's like every one you have to jailbreak. It's only when you get to it you realize with self-awareness, like, why not just buy an air conditioner? Like,
I know the right temperature for a small cost. Yeah,
like I adapted to it when it came to picking up a bar tab, but like I still eat ramen like I'm a fucking student. Still get them instant ramen pots. I've never I can appreciate the finer things, like a good scotch or whatever, but I never really leveled up in terms of like when I'm just slobbing around the house. I don't own probably any nice clothes outside of a couple of suits or whatever, because who gives a fuck? Just walk around my three. I'd dress like Kevin Smith.
Here's a potential best to buy the numbers moment. So basically, when I was in Korea, they all love like a very specific one. I think it's called like Shin Ramen or something. It's the most famous one.
That's what I have.
And what they do basically is even the Koreans that go to other countries, like either ship this stuff in or buy it from a local store that sells it, and they love this shit, right? And the most famous one is just like, it's just one of those flavors where it doesn't have a flavor, it's just spicy, right? And then however much you put of that stuff in, it goes ham, right? So here's the mad thing. It doesn't taste that great. It's just okay, obviously, it's just fucking ramen with spicy stuff on. But I used to literally just use that, Richard. If I ever like felt a bit blocked up, all I'd do is eat that, mate.
Yeah.
About half an hour later, you shit yourself, of course.
Are you talking about this one?
Yeah, exactly that.
Yeah.
Because
there you go. Literally just add one before we come on the show.
It's nice though, yeah.
Oh yeah, it's good. It's good, mate.
It cleans you out like a motherfucker.
What I love about it is it doesn't tell you. It, like you say, it doesn't have a flavor on it, but it does have the word "big." It just says it's big. That it's big. Must be big. I'm on board with it, mate. So yeah, but anyway, I'll set up the sponsors. Sadly, not sponsored by Shin Ramen. That'd be fucking great. What a dream that would be. I don't know if you've got a hook up there, but if you do.
To be fair, what's weird is I've never seen anyone in esports sponsored by that sort of stuff, even though, by the way, in the modern day, all the crowd are fucking stupid weebs. And obviously there's a million people who are like Asian who are obviously in the game. So I'm amazed that like some of these teams don't have that. There's a real sponsor. Like,
I know, it's mad, isn't it? Like,
crossover seems obvious.
I don't, it's like, you know, it took people so long to get into this world. Oh, we could do crypto sponsorships.
True.
We could do like Crunchyroll sponsorships, right? Like no one really, this is what I mean. Like, you know, one of the problems we've had in esports, it's not just the fans. I know last episode, the fans were the cunts, but also a lot of these like people who like make out their marketing gurus because they landed one big sponsor one time. And then it's like, you've left all this crossover on the table. You've left it all on the table. You know,
this is how overrated esports. Because by the way, I actually think, no joke, one of the weakest positions in the entire industry is exactly what you're talking about. It's a mixture of social media manager and fucking actual sponsorships. Now everyone's going to go, "What are you talking about?" Listen, there's a few people like when Cloud9 get like that Puma deal or TSM gets a crypto deal. They're good sponsorships. Like, you've probably done good work there. But mate, how many of them are still stuck in the esports space is mental. Like, it's actually unbelievable to me how some of these guys, like you say, talk a big game. Like, put it this way, one of the people who was working with Flashpoint last year, mate, he used to work with, like, AS Roma, exactly that. And this motherfucker couldn't have sold anything. He couldn't have sold fucking a new corrupt way to fuck a player over to Nicola Nyholm. I had to come up with something for that, didn't I? I was, you know,
it's good. It's good.
Yeah,
and it leads us nicely into the sponsor plug, because someone that would never fuck over anyone in a corrupt manner is obviously .com. It's why we've been partnered with them for so long. Great sponsorship to have. Go to .com/RLS. Sign up there if you want to play some bets on some esports events in a safe, ethical environment. And of course, NordVPN maybe stops you getting fucked over by a government or a big tech entity working as a branch of a government while pretending that they're vaguely independent and impartial. Probably won't protect you, actually. But get it anyway. Get 70% off. Go to nordvpn.com/RLS. Right. It's the IEM Cologne special. It's LAN, boys. We're back. It's LAN. It's LAN, bro. It's LAN. It was LAN, bro. It was totally LAN, bro.
I mean, you were so right on that, because not only did they hit that every fourth word, but I even thought, by the way, about preempting the stupid ESL take, and dude, I nailed it, but I just didn't do it because I didn't want to just be only complaining about ESL all, but, you know, I took a fucking day off. I knew, Richard, as soon as those semis were set that way, God help us if G2 and Na'Vi make the final, because ESL is, no joke, going to ram that was the Katowice final down your motherfucking throat. Even though, by the way, it's a totally irrelevant context, bearing in mind they didn't have Nico on G2 and Kenny S was in good form at the time. And then on Na'Vi, they didn't even have Bit and Perfecto just joined the team. Like, basically, it's not really very relevant. Mate, they hit that one also so many times. They even did a graphic. I don't know if you saw this. I think it was on the stream. It might be on Twitter. Dude, they did a graphic where they said something stupid, like that Na'Vi had like won like the last two LAN, like they tried to make it say like back-to-back LAN events, as though like, even though the context was like totally like the least applicable ever use of that word ever in history, you know, because that's basically like if they paused like sports during the war and you came back 10 years later, you won, you went back-to-back, baby. The best. Like, what are you talking about? You know, like, ESL are so shameless, aren't they? Because the problem is here, guys, it's not just that they're sort of skewing what the actual context is. It's always just about them.
Yeah, because it just happens to be both their events as well.
Of course. Yeah, by the way, they would have never fucking mentioned a peak. It'd have been Blast right before then. That's the thing about ESL. They're so shameless. Like, they're the motherfuckers. Like, Riot Games, by the way, will always try and make everything about the champion in the game, not the player. And ESL will always just make it like a backhanded compliment on themselves itself and how brilliant they are for having events. Like, man alive.
I think one of the reasons why it actually came across as grating, and I hope, when the talent eventually watch this, they realize I'm not digging them out, even though I am a cantankerous arsehole. But I think it was particularly great, right? So just explain it to the plebs. Hi, plebs. When you do commentary, right, you're essentially a storyteller, yeah? So what I'm doing is I'm telling the story of a game in a moment, like a series, which is a bunch of games, right? And then I have to connect that to a tournament, which is lots of games and series. And so what I have to do is I have to find something contextual to the moment that lets you know this is like chapter whatever of the story, but there is a bigger story. You might have missed other chapters because it's not like a book where you have to read it in order, typically, unless you are a fucking fool. But, or it's one of those fighting fantasy ones, which are wicked. But that's what you have to do. Wait. Oh,
it's on my fucking end. Can anyone hear that alarm?
No, I got it.
Right, never mind then. Like someone's car alarm's going off, and the last thing I want to do is close the fucking window, obviously. So just keep going.
Yeah, that's fine. Right. It's your favorite loud noises. All we need is some flashing lights in your eyes, and we're back at LAN. We'll be at LAN. But anyway, back to explaining how it works. So obviously they have to hit certain points, and they do have to point out that it is a LAN event technically, and they do have, of course, right?
A good angle to market, of course, as well. Yeah.
But the problem we've had at the moment is, which everyone's been talking about, is because these games go on for so fucking long. I think the reason it grated,
the frequency's just increased. Yes,
because you have so much downtime, so much more to link it over time. So you end up like things that you would already repeat or in a series if you're just joining us, or whatever, that type of stuff. Now you're repeating it over and over and over and over again. And it's really hard as well because, like, say you've got an Inferno Decider. That map just never ends anymore, does it? I see, we literally, the economy is so fucked. We're actually happy if it's a 16-14 and not a quadruple overtime. That's where we're at. So imagine if you're like Alex and Chad, there you are, you've got to do this, and you go, right, and this is the deciding map. And then, okay, it's 8-7. Wow, it's close. It's 8-7 again. Now, whoever wins this overtime at LAN, they're going to be champions at Cologne, but we're not calling it Cologne. Our focus group says we should call it Cologne, and on it goes. And then you get another overtime and another overtime. And then, fucking that'll drone out the car alarm. That one, won't it, right?
I know.
And that, so it feels grating because there's the game is so busted right now. I think it doesn't serve commentators, basically.
By the way, I'll even say as well, you've just hit on another like classic trope that does need to be retired temporarily, which is that Inferno's the best map. I used to think the same thing, Richard.
Used to be.
Every caster used to say that same line. And of course, we've got our favourite map as the Decider, Inferno.
Yeah. Now I just want to shoot
in this economy. I hate Inferno in this economy. It's people not going for fucking like bomb defusals. Yeah. Like, this is Garbo now. I hate Inferno now. The irony is, actually, some of the other maps have sort of got a second lease of life from it. Like.
I know. No, about like it's got to the stage now where I'm honestly, I might even take a Vertigo because at least you see a blowout. At least you still see blowouts on Vertigo. It's fucking garbage to watch. It's boring. There's no. Let's go A simulator. But you know what? I'll take you having a go A with the map being so cut off you can't do rotates and shit. I'll take that over fucking the never-ending Inferno right now, like, which wasn't that a movie with. No, that was the Towering Inferno.
Yes.
Never mind. Anyway, we are going to talk about Cologne. It's LAN. It was back. We're going to pick out all of the storylines, starting with the losers, the big L on your forehead, Fortnite dance losers, of which there were many. I guess the first, probably we should talk a bit about mouse sports. Right. We don't talk about them a lot. Weird situation for them because they came into this event. They've been on a bit of an uptick, obviously. They'd had some decent runs at tournaments. People were like saying, "Wow, actually, Dexter's gonna turn it around. And actually, we've been too harsh on him. And, they had that good run at Flashpoint and all that stuff. But actually here they were pretty poor overall and didn't really live up to the billing, which was kind of fucked up because actually Rops played his fucking heart out. He played.
He always does, doesn't he?
Yeah, true. But Rops played sick. I mean, listen, sure, they lost the Gambit. That was always going to be a tall order for them. Yeah. Losing a Liquid.
That's a bit more on the edge.
With one of those Inferno games that we were talking about, just a casual 28-25 Inferno, an unthinkable scoreline.
That's mental,
yeah, an unthinkable scoreline just like 9 months ago, but don't worry about it. Just the new normal, like many things. But yeah, I mean, like Rops dropped 90 kills in that series against Liquid and still lost. And obviously, with all of the speculation about Rops' future, talk about does he join G2? I mean, that's another one of these moves because G2 were the last of the big spenders, being floated out there. I don't know. I think this last place finish could have catastrophic ramifications for the future of the team and for Rops' future within it. I mean, keep in mind, the build-up, the interviews that he did, he was out there saying, oh, yes, a 7 figure buyout for a player of my caliber is perfectly acceptable. Wink, wink. I have a buyout and it's 7 figures. Please get me out of this fucking.
And that also implies, by the way, they ain't letting me go unless you give 7 figures. Please,
yeah, exactly.
Someone, please.
Yeah, exactly. Like, listen, Robs, I love you, baby. Like, if only other players had your sensibilities. Because yeah, he's done a perfectly valid interview there and basically told everyone what they need to know to come and get him and pretty much intimated publicly. Oh, and by the way, yeah, I would totally love to go. So, yeah, I saw there was like some Reddit post that came out because obviously there's a lot of mouse sports flares on Reddit and they're all ill. Generally, that is the mark. No, as we'll talk about later, Na'Vi fans have probably rapidly overtaken them. But mouse sports were always they were the original desperately ill super fan on Reddit. But there was one going like, please, Rops, don't go. Just one more event. Like, sometimes when you love something, you have to set it free, boys. That's
Dude,
all
have you ever seen, you must have seen this in sports. Like, I know you don't watch the NBA much, but they must do it in the NFL or something, right? In the NBA, it's classic, right? That when a player has already said, like, this is my last season, I'm definitely retiring. Sometimes even at the retirement ceremony, Richard, in America, the fans chant, 1 more year. It's like, mate, that is the least appropriate chant when they're literally putting his fucking jersey in the. They're not going to pause it. Like, wait a minute. Like, what do you even think? Listen, I get the sentiment. The sentiment, really, what you should chant is, "We love you." That's brilliant. Yeah,
yeah, we love you. That's great.
Just saying one more year, like he's not going to do that, is he? Like, and as you say, he's getting banged out. Like what you're saying there is, please, Robs, just keep hard carrying at a world-class level this team that isn't that good and just come last because I'm a mouse sports fan. As you say, they're just meant to be ill, aren't they? Let's be real. Like.
Joke's on them anyway, though, because like we all know, as soon as he does leave, they'll just go and change their flair. And I am fan of this team now. Yeah, because that's that. But I mean, on a serious note, I think this was like, after all of that good work, this is pretty devastating, right? And not what you want to do if you want to keep hold of a star player.
The problem is this: if you look at the one big tournament they had, Flashpoint 3, which, by the way, the fashion they won it in, very impressive. Like, they didn't lose a map till the final. The problem is this: the entire premise of them being really good was based on the fact that I think they beat G2 and NIP. Now, listen, that NIP one's fucking aged like milk, homie. Nobody gives a fuck that you beat NIP now. Seemed hype at the time because everyone thought they were going to be awesome, didn't they? Like, yeah. Not really now. So basically, they beat G2, right? Okay, that's a legit win. Aside from that, though, they sort of had an easy bracket because there was like some weird upsets in the bracket and stuff. And then, if you ever go and just look at the raw stats of the players, right? At that event, mate, it was totally unsustainable. They had something like 4 players have like mad fragging stats or something. Unsurprisingly, at this tournament, yeah, Rops and Frozen are really good. But like, yeah, Dexter isn't going to like frag everyone's head off as an IGL. No, BMAS is still a fucking young, inexperienced player who, by the way, has played fuck all lands. So like, you have to also expect that like, it's still a pretty inexperienced team across the board. Unfortunately, Rops is sort of like overqualified to be in the team. That's why he's probably not going to be soon. And I personally think if I had to guess the future future of mouse sports. Rops is going to a FaZe or a G2, some really good team for Mega Bloks soon, or rather later in the year maybe. And then if I had to guess, I've said it in the past one, I suspect like Acor goes to Astralis or something because they're going to lose all their players. Like, unfortunately, I think it's going to be slim pickings for this team. Now, I will say they've done a fucking amazing job over the years getting in new talent, so maybe they can do it again. But I kind of feel like this team's sort of like they already jumped the shark after fucking Flashpoint, mate. Because I had loads of people, because I did that video about his buyout, like after they won. There was all tickets. Like, what are you? Whoa! They just won a tournament, Thorn. Why would he leave mouse spots? It's like, you guys don't even understand the context of the industry, for fuck's sake. That's like saying when Leicester won the Premier League, like, I hope none of these players are ever thinking of leaving Leicester City. It's like,
no.
Motherfucker, what do you want me to do? Do a miracle every season? What are you talking about, you idiot? Like, it's not the way the sport works, is it? You know, and by the way, that's one of the factors fans have to grow up about, is we're just not in a world, unfortunately, by the way, you'd need a franchise system to even get close to this, where every team has that sort of investment. So there's always going to be some hierarchy just based on the fact that, like, if one team can pay 20k and the other one can pay 10k, eventually the 10k player is going to take that 20k offer, and it's just the world that we live in.
Well, I think as well, you know, imagine a world where you had to be a bit more kind of conservative in how you moved as an esports professional, because, you know, fan bases didn't have a tendency to move around. I think I've definitely seen a shift a little bit the last few years, but in general, if you're a top player, you know, wherever you go, you take the fans with you. Now, in mainstream sports, that's not a luxury you can say.
Be a traitor in mainstream sports.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Like, I remember the classic one, of course, of all time was when fucking Figo thought it would be acceptable to play for Barcelona and then Real Madrid, and just be at like games in Real Madrid and Barcelona stadium. Like, why don't they love me? It's like, first of all, mate, you're from Portugal and this is in Spain, and you've just like committed the ultimate treason. Like, what are you doing? You know? No, I've always thought that was mental, mate. The fact that, like, basically, it's like, that's why NIP fans became twice as obnoxious the day Device joined, because just all those dickhead Astralis fans that thought we were lying just came over there and they're like, oh, now they're lying about NIP. It's like, it's weird how you care about NIP all of a sudden, isn't it? Like, what are you talking about?
Well, I think you know, like, it's interesting. Like, even it doesn't matter who you are or what you've done in mainstream sports in a lot of cases. Like,
you could be a legendary player for sure.
Yeah, all this Aaron Rodgers stuff at Green Bay is fascinating, I think. Like, just as an example, like, as a case study, that you can be a guy who's, like, been at one team for, like, what is it, like 16 years now? And
maybe not that long, but it's quite a long time, yeah.
I think it might be 16.
Oh, you might be right. I think it was 2004 was the first season, yeah.
Yeah, because they brought him in when Brett Favre was still there.
He just didn't play for the first few, so I deleted them from my brain, yeah.
Yes, because like, he was Brett Favre's understudy. But you know, like, the fans are fucking hating on him right now. I mean, like,
holy shit, are you for real?
Yeah, this is true. Like, go check it out because he didn't turn up for the. Don't get me wrong.
To the press conference because the training camp because he's sort of like playing politics with your team. I get that. No, but in fact, the part that's insane about that is if people don't know, that would be like if Simple, you know, like last year when Navi was a bit shit, was like, you know what, I'm leaving, and then every Navi fan was like, "Fuck Simple, he's a piece of shit," and you're like, carrying your team for years.
I know.
What? No gratitude. What?
It's crazy because you know, like, don't get me wrong, like, I've always mocked Rodgers, but I think he's like got legitimate grievance. The issue you get into is like he's like maybe going to do a Le'Veon Bell, like he might sit out an entire season, is what he's intimating right now. He's already just eaten like $100,000 fine.
Because basically, people don't know. They've done this stupid thing where financially it actually only makes sense for both of them to stay together for like something like, I think 2 more years and then for him to leave. But because he's just basically been slighted by the org, it's just got in his feelings. So he's basically going out of his way to sort of fuck the team. So here's the thing. On that level, I guess I can sort of I'll give them like a slight pass. If you're like a reasonable fan and you don't say like fuck him as a player or something, just like, oh, I don't like this and you know, you should turn up. Like, I'll give you an example. I'll tell you something, Rich. I won't name names, but I've been in situations where people, for whatever reason, at esports events when I'm working as talent, were like, "Oh, I need this game off," or "Oh, I'm a bit sad now, so I don't want to do this game." And I always just think like, "Then give the money back, you cunt." Give the money back, because I've done every match I was ever asked to do in my entire life, no matter the conditions. You don't know if I had a family member die. I've even had that happen, by the way. A family member literally died. I just did the games the next day because I signed up to do that event. I agreed to do that. They'll be short-handed if I aren't there. And at the end of it, by the way, as I alluded to, they all still charge the same amount. So to me, there's almost like a level of defrauding someone on that level. What, you're going to get paid like thousands of dollars for a game you didn't do? What the fuck is that?
Yeah, I mean, like as it's well known. I mean, I did Cologne 2014 after my friend hung himself. I was like, because in my mind it was like, well, first I've signed up to this. They've advertised me. I have to go, but also as well, I was thinking like maybe I just never get another shot to do a major, so I have to I have to power through. I have to compartmentalize, But yeah, anyway, the Aaron Rodgers thing is like mad fascinating to me because I mean, like the fans are turning on this like legendary guy, when of course like he's got all the reason to be aggrieved. In fact, it's hard to imagine how a franchise could have handled this worse. They didn't they had to restructure for the salary cap. They didn't pick his contract to be one of the ones that were restructured, which essentially says, because the way you'd bring your salary cap down is you give guaranteed money later down the line, so you extend the contract essentially to bring the overall cap down in the short term. They asked 6 players. He wasn't one of them. That's essentially saying, we don't think you have a long-term future here after your 2-year deal. Plus, what first round they traded up to get that Jordan Love understudy.
Took him 23rd or something, yeah.
And that, if you're Aaron Rodgers, and that's how he got into the franchise.
They're also implying that, as you say, they're almost saying like we're doing it again.
Yeah,
that's almost what you're throwing in the guy's face, aren't you?
Yeah. Crazy stuff, man. We need to get that NFL podcast.
Here's another one. Here's another take that you'll love that's aged like milk.
Yeah.
Because obviously I kept saying the most likely destination for Ops, not just because I got the money, but also because I needed to play like that, but also because Carrigan's there. Obviously he's going to join FaZe. Why would he join FaZe? They never win any games.
I know.
Y'all are never going to learn, are you? You're never going to learn. I know.
They don't get it. They don't get it. But all I'll say is watch this space. I know Carlos is a mischievous guy, but G2 have been. It's been talked about for a while that they might throw some money around to get some of these players when they become available. And obviously, he did just tweet today saying feel like buying something expensive, which obviously he probably means a fucking Rolex and not ROPS, but.
I guess someone pointed out, right, and this is true. If you actually go back and look, he did a tweet like that in the past where you actually give like a load of options. And the joke was he gave the options based on what percentage likelihood. And it was stuff like, I'll sign like, I don't know, this. One of them was like sign like Nico, sign Double Lift, sign Reckless. And what's a joke is someone pointed out like he actually had signed like 2 of the top 3 names or something like, he did it as a meme, but then he actually did buy those players. Because I've always said on this podcast, I actually give mad props to guys like that. Where at a time when everyone else is like, I don't want to open the pocketbook. Anyone who's played in tier 4, 16, I can sign for pennies. He actually legit does think like a sports GM. Like, what's the last piece that even if I have to overpay, it just makes me the champion? Just makes my org look super sick because in every game I have the big names. So I wouldn't put it past him. I think Clave's on the menu for him. Rops is probably a contender. There's obviously got to be an AWP at some point in time, probably. But the good thing is, if I was a G2 fan, I know it was hard a couple of years ago, but mate, I'd be mad confident about this team. If I'm a G2 fan, I'm like, they'll make the changes if they need to.
Yeah. So let's talk about Complexity as well. Another team that went out kind of in last spot here at Cologne. I'm starting to wonder if I'm a little bit biased to Complexity because obviously I've known Jason Lake a while and know some of the players on that roster and like him. And I wonder if I do have a little bit of an internal bias. Because I almost was going to just gloss past the fact that they finished last here on the basis that they had to play G2 and they lost the Virtus Pro. And it was like, Virtus Pro battled back. Complexity were right on the precipice of winning this. And then they basically lost on Dust 2 straight in overtime and then lost a very close overpass 16-13 after being one map up. So, I guess the elephant in the room, as always, when we talk about Complexity, is this blend of players. They went in the wilderness where they were using stand-ins. We were like, right, Poison's going to come back. It took way too long. He did come back. After that, I think it was a blast. They went and they suddenly were performing again. Everyone was like, this is great. Okay, it's all going to work out. No problem. Then Poison kind of went off the boil a little bit again. And there's this constant discussion about whether or not this lineup of Complexity can work. I see it often on social and whatnot, people saying JKS and Blame F cannot coexist in the same team. They both want to lurk. They both want to play that style. Currently now, you need to be aggressive and you need to be playing in advanced positions. And maybe that's not JKS's game naturally, although I think he definitely can. And for me, the only player that truly, I mean, like, I'll give blame F, obviously, sure, but the only player that truly looks like an actual tier 1 world star, carry a game on his back is Config.
Of course.
Who I still think is one of the best players in the world right now. So yeah, I don't know. I think this is like a pretty disappointing finish for Complexity. Like while it's a nightmare draw that you have to play G2 and Virtus Pro, like at the end of the day, you have to beat one of them. That's the nature of a competition that's this deep.
Also, I don't want to hear with this particular team, like, I don't want to hear any excuses about it being LAN. Like, this is a team where they actually, by the way, in theory, JKS is mega LAN proven. It's Obo that was like fairly inexperienced. And obviously, yeah, Poison doesn't have that much experience at tier 1, but like the rest of the team does. Like 4 out of the 5 are pretty experienced players. So I have to say, I'm totally round to where you were months ago, mate. JKS can't stay in this team. He's just not good enough. And then if you add in knowing what like his contract is like, mate, that's egregious. That is actually egregious. Yeah. And the worst thing about it is you are not playing positions where you aren't supposed to get kills. You don't have resources. Motherfucker, you're supposed to be one of the best players in this team. The dream for Complexity is this, that Config's amazing, which he is again. That Blame F is just like, you don't even need his frags and then you get them as well. So now put you over the top, and JKS is there, so you've got what a fucking fragging lineup. And then, by the way, your AWP doesn't even have to be a superstar, it just has to be like done with the AWP right positions. Because in my opinion, between JKS and Poison, you know one of them's gonna have a bad game. It's like the problem with Call is they're never like total trash. They always give you like a little flicker of hope, and obviously Blame F and Config can carry the fuck out of a whole bunch of games. But I agree. Put it this way. When they were at their best, I think was a weaker space in the scene. Right now, when I look at the top 10, they're not going to do big things at tournaments with this lineup. They're another team, by the way, I hope is going to reach in the pocketbook and make some big signings. Obviously, people have been leaking things might be happening. Won't necessarily comment on those unless you want to, but yeah. I do think they should get a big name, which fair enough. I'll put them in the same category I did G2 and FaZe. They have made the big signings previously. I think, unfortunately, and I don't think you could totally have known this, I think they just put a foot awry with JKS. Like, one thing I'm learning about that player is, I wondered, why does he just never leave 100 Thieves / Renegades for all those years? Such a good player, blah, blah, blah. I'm looking back now and thinking, wait a minute, that was a team where essentially they all knew which way their bread was buttered. He was their best player. They even knew that. He was even allowed to be sort of a quiet player. They just gave him everything he wanted, Richard. And unfortunately, when you come into a big team, sometimes either they give you everything you want and it doesn't work, so they have to change it around, or maybe you don't get everything your way. So I actually think I don't think this is the team for him, mate. I think he should go to a different team. Maybe Extreme, who knows?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think the disappointing thing overall has just been, I don't think this version of Complexity has ever looked as good as it did with Obo. And when you're talking about an experienced player like JKS, a player that, I know you have given a lot of accolades to and said, at his peak, you felt he was right up there when he was competing in NA with the best that NA had to offer, the likes of Elysian, people like that. Yeah, it's like it just hasn't clicked for whatever reason. Now, I'll also add, it was in the news after this, they did cut their coach, Keita. I knew him as JMM from Source.
Yeah,
he used to play
back in the day,
yeah, he used to play in Fish 1, 2, 3. But I saw a lot of people saying, like, and this is another example of like Reddit just crafting their own narratives, and then when someone calls them out on it, they go, well, what else am I supposed to do? I don't know, not invent a fucking story in your mind.
Okay. What was the angle?
So the angle was that, yeah, I just don't think he ever actually was a coach. And I think he was just an analyst. It was that classic one. Like, nobody has any insight into what he does behind the scenes. I'll also tell you this, I don't think Jason Lake is a guy that would like take someone who was phoning it in and taking a paycheck if they weren't absolutely earning that on some level. Now, certainly you can criticize his competency, and to be honest, as a coach, I don't think his legacy is much. I don't think
people realize in Call, you only got to have 3 lands. So he's a pretty inexperienced, as you say, we know him from the fucking UK scene. I actually didn't even realize, like, is he in the coaching game? Because there's loads of people like that, loads of former players that are always circling around. So to me, if in some ways this was his big break and he just didn't live up to it, it's okay. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah, exactly. And like, if he learns something from it, all good, we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I did notice he was cut after this. And generally, that's not a great sign. When an all cuts the coach, you know what happens next? It's a roster change.
Delay the roster move, exactly.
Yes, that is delaying the roster move.
Gap move that you do before you have to just get out your checkbook in it.
Yeah. So, and like I said, I don't know who's going to go. I certainly hope we're not just making a cut based on statistics and Rush ends up getting cut, because I think
I hope not. That was what's implied by some people I noticed.
Yeah, he does a lot more than his stats on the
If you
surface.
ask Config, I'll tell you right now, he would ask Rush to stay. That would be my guess.
100%.
Also, the other thing I have to say about the whole Keita angle is, if I have to speculate, like, how could they even, if I reverse engineer, how could they come up with that angle? I would guess this, Richard. Obviously, everyone who's a Call fan is a mad fan of Play MF because he's just like putting up mad stats all the time.
Yeah.
He's the IGL and even seems like a pretty cool guy. Well, unfortunately, the main thing everyone always bangs on about him is like he's watching a million demos every day. So I'm pretty sure that's where they've come up with that angle. Like, oh, he's the real coach, and then the other guy just stands behind him.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, listen, watching a demo as an IGL is very different from being the coach. Like the job of the coach isn't just watch demos, guys.
I mean, put it this way: I saw the analyst over at FaZe, talk about how he prepared 30 maps. And, on the one hand, like because again, I'm a cynical asshole. Whenever I see something like that, I'm always thinking, wow, look at that guy trying to get his shine because FaZe overperformed, sure. But I mean, equally, maybe he deserves that shine. And the only way I could gauge would be what Carrigan has to say about it. Obviously, we can't ask him. But, I know for a fact, like, there have been people that have done so much for their IGLs. Like you say, the classic one was Malik when he was working with Happy, and he would come in with reams and reams of notes and prep, and Happy would tell him to stick it up his ass.
I heard it was the same with the guy before that, the guy that was an NBK's mate, NKJ, the like guy who was from a bunch of like German teams or whatever. Apparently, he was doing the same thing. He was just coming with all these notes, and Happy was like, "I do not care," and then just fucking call him like a Russian to a brick wall, like
he was notorious for that. But the credit to Malik, who obviously is doing a great work at G2. He would still prepare it every fucking single time, knowing the IGL was going to tell him to stick it up his ass.
That's professionalism, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
By the way, I mad respect that as a quality.
Oh, yeah.
It's the same thing I did the whole of last year at Flashpoint. People don't know this. Eventually, I figured out something like 3 months in, Richard, like, I'm getting mad underpaid for all I'm doing. But I didn't go to them and go, right, I need a new contract. I was like, I agreed to do this. I signed on the dotted line. I'm even doing some of it, by the way, not because you asked me to, because I want to do it. I want the scene to be better. So, like, you can't, one thing I hate in life is where people use someone else's failure as an excuse as why they didn't try. It's like, that's not how a job works. What the fuck are you talking about?
Exactly. And, you could make an argument to say, well, I stopped doing it because he was telling me to stick it up my ass all the time. But no, he always did it. And yeah, he's a really slept on coach, I think.
Sure.
Because he's not he doesn't seek out the limelight.
I would just say go and listen to the episode of Stratbook, that's in the series that I do with Lagia, where we had him on it, right? Mate, his insight is mega. You could totally see the way he was using players and thinking of them. He seems like a really, really sound guy. I think he's legit.
Yeah, a very legit guy. So let's talk about Liquid's 9th to 12th. 9th to 12th is the bracket of doom. So many people kind of fell here. And Liquid, I interviewed Alish before they came over to Cologne, Cologne. They had high hopes, and Alish said, as far as he was concerned, he didn't think that there was anyone there that other than Gambit and Virtus Pro that were doing anything.
Famous last words, I know.
Yeah, that he, he couldn't wrap his head around, or they were doing anything special. And of course, obviously, it starts out, you've got that delectable Liquid versus NIP. Great opening match, really. Like, if you think about all the history in terms of it, plus the roster moves and falling in there and Device on the open, all these like cool little storylines. And the match, as it turned out, you had an overtime on Overpass to open it up, 1917 to Liquid. You're like, wow, and that was Nip's pick. Holy shit, what are we gonna get here? And then, just like a fucking wet fart in a jacuzzi, making everybody leave the room, you then had to watch Liquid get 8 rounds on the next 2 maps. They got absolutely fucking abused. So it was like, oh, it's that Liquid again. And yeah, unfortunately, that was the tale of Liquid in Cologne. You had the never-ending game against Mouse Sports that they sort of like came to life at the right time and won. And then you were like, okay, all right, maybe they'll grow into the tournament. It's been a while. All the excuses, take your pick, jet lag, whatever you want to say. And then they just got 2-0'd by Big. And that's that. Out you go. See you later. So I wanted to ask you about this Liquid because they'd won the RMR. I mean, they're clearly the best team in North America, which that used to mean something, didn't it? It used to.
It's saying something when the CIS RMR is about 4 times more competitive than NA. Come on, boys.
Yeah.
This is some sort of Cold War wet dream.
Yeah, no, it is. It is. Like it's like, yeah, but like Liquid's not Bobby Fischer, are they? You know, like it's fucking
Paul Creed and fucking Ivan Drago's putting him down.
Yeah, exactly, mate. That's what's happening. So yeah, it's a really weird situation they're in. First, just for a little bit of background, just to confirm it, because I still see people who are confused by this. Okay. Fallen is not the IGL.
No, as far as I know, Stewie 2K, right?
Stewie took it back over before the RMR. It was Stewie. Fallen came in. They kept it as Stewie after Fallen came in. They had a couple of bad results. Fallen took over. Then it was going to be Stewie was going to just call on 1 or 2 maps, the more technical ones like Nuke. Then they had some bad results on that. Then Fallen took it all over. Then for reasons that were explained simply as Stewie is a really good micromanager and helps the team. It was taken back from Fallen. The whole team agreed to it. Fallen clearly didn't, but said, I'll just eat that plate of shit because I like playing in the team. I like being Liquid. I like working with you guys. Okay. So Fallen's the AWPA and Stewie's the IGL. So any tactical deficiencies you can put on Stewie, but any performance issues, you have to give him the same grace you would give to any IGL. You can't have your cake and eat it with your Stewie 2K hate. But what I will say is it leaves me with a lot of questions about the team. And after a real disappointing performance where they've shown, unfortunately, that they're really off the pace when it comes to European teams, you have to wonder about Fallen's place on the roster because, like, real talk, I love Gabriel, Hall of Famer, great guy, whatever. But he's never going to be at his best ever again. He's just not.
Swear. You can always imagine he was on the shortlist anyway, Richard. But I've been thinking about doing the video I did about Olaf Meister, Thorin versus CS Royalty, Fallen. It's an obvious one to make at this point in time, innit? Because as you say, he isn't the IGL. By the way, already the idea of the IGL's the AWPA and they're not that good at AWPA. I don't really fuck with that idea either, but whatever. And if people don't know, before, I think Moses even talked about this publicly. I think he maybe even talked about it on like an episode of Counterpoints or something, maybe. Moses, before he was unceremoniously kicked by some of the daft cunts in this team who I hope are going to get everything they deserve for the next year. That's right, Big Ed. Basically, what he was even implying, like, I actually think Stewie 2K is a really good in-game leader, you know, but just, I can't remember what his reasons to why they didn't implement him was and why they kept it as Fallen. Maybe something like, I don't know, he couldn't get his individual game off or something. I can't remember what the reason was. But he actually was super hyped up. So that sounds to me like the team does think that, like, Stewie 2K was the better IGL for them, which, as you say, listen, that's fine. Listen, I don't think they're very good tactically, so I'm sort of a bit out on that. But as you say, that will affect your fragging. That goes without saying, especially if you play his roles. But I agree. What is Fallen there for? Like, think about this, right? If you look at the fragging they get in their team, they'd have to actually be a really good tactical team that's top. They'd have to be like G2, super cohesive, where it's not, you know, 2 people can just frag out. That's fine. They don't have that. They're a team that, in theory, on paper, obviously should frag out. That's what should win them the games. And Fallen just doesn't do it, mate. Like, he had 2 games at this tournament 2 maps where he had 10 kills. He's the AWPA.
I know.
That's so expensive. What are you doing? Like, so my problem
it was really bad. It was really bad.
Here's the thing. It was a gamble that was worth doing at the time on the Liquid end last year. It was. At this point in time, though, bearing in mind, it's not like you have to have him. He's a fucking Brazilian player in an NA team. Like, I would be looking for an upgrade if you can, or change player if you can.
Well, I think the time has come. Look, I mean, keep in mind, I'm the guy that talked about this move before this move happened, said I wanted this move to happen. But that was all on the proviso that Fallen was going to come in with a fucking playbook and get these guys firing again.
Yes, exactly.
Now, maybe, you know, listen, I'll also say this. I love Jason like a brother, but I don't think I think he had to learn a hard lesson that a lot of talent learns, and that is that when you have all these tools and all these gifts in this one field, your talent you are mortal. You're not a demigod. You're not going to be amazing at everything you try.
Now, it takes time to be good. You're not just going to walk in and be good tomorrow.
Yeah, and this is why, you know, think about how we do football managers. You know, you go. What happens? You do your coaching badges, and then if you're lucky, you might get a small team, maybe even a non-league team. You might have played in Champions League finals, but but when it comes to management, you're starting at the fucking very bottom. It's a different discipline, and it's
as an assistant, you know, as
yeah,
your option.
yeah, and look, yeah, of course, and look,
Shadow someone, learn from them.
It's not an exact science, like, you know, fucking Lampard or Wayne. Some, you know, sometimes you can sort of jump the queue based on excellence and networking or whatever. That's the nature of any industry. But in general, these are the rules. And unfortunately,
I mind though, Richard, that anyone would want Wayne Rooney to be their manager. Listen, Wayne Rooney had a lot of talents. Not one of them involved thinking or talking. Just going to go and put that out there. And also, I'll even say, this is actually rude, so get ready to timestamp this. Doesn't seem like he makes the best life decisions.
No, he
just leave it at that. How can that be your By the way, how many red cards did this cut get? He's your manager.
Yeah.
I can't believe there's so stupid football in it. It's so stupid.
I think the fact that he got paid a fucking 58-year-old dinner lady for sex or whatever it was, while dating a pretty, you know, like, listen, maybe you shouldn't be in charge, is all I'm saying.
I know.
You know. But whatever, anyway, we'll leave that. We'll leave that.
Rooney.
Yeah, we'll leave Wayne Rooney. He's a bad example. Moses is no Wayne Rooney. But you know, he didn't get an apprenticeship, and he took one of the most difficult jobs in world Counterstrike, and Yanko made the same mistake before him.
Yep.
And this is, you find out that there's a lot more to it than meets the eye.
I've got a track record that's mental.
Players are gods, you know.
Think about this. In CSGO, Henry becoming general manager. Yanko becomes a coach. Moses becomes a coach. In League of Legends, Jat, by the way, one of the most legendary like analyst commentators ever. Team Liquid coach, had his own massive problems.
Yeah.
Mate, it's the point with it. What we're getting at here is you might have all the knowledge. It's true. You might even, by the way, in a different context, be amazing at talking about the game and thinking about the game. The question is, can you talk about the game to a player and get him to buy into what you're doing? Can you do, as you're saying? Like, here's the thing: people don't even know until they've done it. I'm not even joking. Some of them don't even know things like, how do they actually really run a practice in the modern day? Like, I've heard stories about it, but what is it actually like when you run the scrims? How much demos should we watch? Sometimes I've heard these stories from some of these guys. You do the same thing as you were talking about before, fucking Malik. You come in thinking it's like first day of school, like, I've got all my homework, boys. And then they're like, chuck that in the bin, mate. We'll just play the scrims and see how it goes. And you're like, what? And then you just realize you get that splash of cold water in your face. It's a different world. And so I actually think the sad thing is, I'm going to say this one last time. This is a real warning to talent who try this. Here's the reason that you shouldn't be a manager or a coach. If you wouldn't take that gig Richard's talking about, if you wouldn't take, for example, like the mouse spots gig and show your skills off and earn your way up, because it's not enough money and it's not enough acclaim and you've got an amazing job as a caster, then you should stay as a caster. That's just the way it is. Because if you're going to be a coach, in my opinion, it is a lifetime job. I say this about IGLs all the time. I hate motherfuckers who change to IGL and know they're going to swap in 3 months. If you're an IGL, you better not only get in those demos, just accept that that's your career from now on. Because I have mad respect for the people who did swap and then never looked back and just kept doing it the whole way through. Again, it's not a job for tourists. These are really, really hard jobs.
Yeah. And like, it's like I say, if you've been at the top of one tree, like, I mean, daring to be at the top of two is it's such outrageous hubris. But anyway, look, so I'm his mate and love him dearly, but I don't think necessarily acquitted himself in glory. And in that sense, yeah, all right, maybe you do go back to Adrian and maybe he can get something going with Fallen, you know, older players, both
he doesn't know how to use washed oppers.
Yeah, but but like I was sort of going there just without the insult.
Yeah, of course.
Because again, like my respect for Adrian goes back to when he was playing in Dynamic and Source, and they dominated North America for a long period of time. And incredibly, when we finally, because this was a time when American teams didn't play European teams a lot, when they did come over to Europe for LAN, they were the only team for one iteration of very games that gave them a good game. The old Dynamic lineup. They took maps off them in best of threes, and keep in mind, very games pretty much won every tournament in Source for 4 fucking years. They were like the Astralis for us. I mean, that's a hell of an accolade. So I've always respected Adrian and AZK and those guys because they were sick. But having an AWPer, a primary AWPer as your coach, and having a legendary AWPer as your AWPer, and you've both been IGLs. It's like, surely there's a marriage that can happen there. Well, what you're saying is, no, actually, we're going to have Stewie do it because we really like the way he micromanages people. Even though, by the way, it's massively hindering Stewie's game to do this. And so you have Fallen, who should be there because of his mind, not his reaction time. You then have a player who's really good when he's not IGLing. It's still one of the best in North America. You make him the IGL, lose that. I don't understand it. I still don't understand it. I'll never understand it. I don't think it can work. So I think it's time in my opinion, I think Team Liquid, if they're serious, they've got to go get OC and replace Fallen with him. I think OC's due his call up to Major League. 100%. It's not.
Well, see, he's carrying tier 2. Like he's doing everything he can to get.
He's not. He's not just carrying into he's not just carrying in tier 2. He is out of this world in that bracket, and is exactly what Liquid are looking for. He fits all the. He fits, and would be cheap. I don't know what else to say. Like it's crazy. Like I was against it. I thought it was just like Reddit fucking hyperbole, Reddit nonsense, a Reddit narrative. Everyone loves the underdog. When everyone was all jerking off when Cloud9 were trying to build a team, hey, should have just kept the extra salt guys. Look, they're ranked above you, even though they're not going in international lands or playing teams of the same caliber as you. And we're a line-up for a long, long time prior to that. All of that nonsense. But at the end of the day, I can't take it out on OC and say he doesn't deserve this chance because fans are irritating. It's like I said, it's not just that he's playing well in that bracket. It's that you can see everything about him. He's too good for it. And I think right now, I don't think it's a controversial statement to say he's a better AWPer than Fallen. I don't think that should be a controversial statement, but it probably is, especially in some parts of the world. Duncan.
2 factors that I just can't get by with is, one, people forget. This is where the online era did skew things. People forget what lands has Grim ever been to? Fuck all. And in Team Liquid,
probably some Fragadelphias or whatever. Yeah.
So the problem is, he's an experience that's going to take time. Okay. By the way, I'm not saying to diss him. I'm saying he's going to need more time. He's going to probably need 6 months to figure out where he's at and if he's going to be a good land player. You got to give these people room. Then I look over, and the other thing is this: I feel like a lot of fans, because by the way, Stewie2K easily one of the most popular players ever from NA. Like probably the most beloved player fighter, because even better than people like Elise, Twist, who are way better skilled players, but just has the reputation, obviously won a major. I feel like people use the fact he was an IGL in most of his teams and miss that he wasn't ever when the team was the best. Like basically when they won the major, that was Tarek. Stewie wasn't the IGL then. What about when Team Liquid had all the Grand Slam? Yeah, he was just the entry fragment. That was actually Nitro was the IGL. Like people have missed this detail. They keep thinking, right, he's good at his role and he's a good person, so therefore move it. It's like, no, if anything, in his career, he becomes the IGL in these scenarios when someone else is fucking it up or can't do it. He does his best and it's maybe all right for a while. And then you get someone that's better at it. And you unleash him to be an entry beast, don't you? So the whole construction of the team, I have questions about.
Yeah, so we'll wait and see. But I mean, this again, like just bitterly disappointing for them overall. But perhaps not as much as Nip, who also were 9th to 12th. I mean, this, if you remember, right, this was the big one. This is okay. We lost Flashpoint, but, we brought in Liners for his tech tips. Yes, seen that joke a million times, guys. Hilarious. We brought him in instead of CTR, who, by the way, is doing really well in that We Play Academy League. We'll hopefully have some time to talk about in a little bit. But, they've spent money on device. They've just partnered up with a Chinese mega investment to get floated on the US NASDAQ, and that's even more exciting than signing device. And that's how you really become 5 steps ahead of Astralis. You go on the real NASDAQ, not the Danish one. That's where we're at. And so, this is meant to be it now. This is meant to prove you can hang with the big boys. But man, this was genuinely disappointing because after they battered Liquid, I was like, I think I did a video for the circle. I was saying, don't rule them out beating Gambit. I was that convinced that was going to happen. And then Gambit did to them what Nip did to Liquid. So then you're like, well, okay, now I don't fucking know anything anymore. But surely Virtus.pro had looked mortal. Virtus.pro had looked in trouble. Virtus.pro literally on a 4-0 overtime to stay in the tournament. They clung in there. So usually you get that adrenaline dump after something like that happens and you fucking fall out of the tournament in the next round. Come on, NIP. It is Virtus.pro. They got manhandled. They didn't look good at all. And what's fucking unbelievable, and by the way, I will feel vindicated. I'm going to claim this one. I've been saying for a year, Rez is the star of NIP. Rez is a fucking bona fide world star now. He's good. He's like the Swedish Valder. End of story. His all-round game is so fucking good. He's developed so much as a talent. As I said, now, if I was putting together like some Scandic mega team, he'd probably be one of the first names, along with Valda, that I'd probably put down. Device, actually, was really, really disappointing. And this Liners kid that they've put so much faith in, look, listen, I hate to fucking pick on someone having their first ever LAN, let alone in these circumstances. But if you're the one that's coming out and saying, oh, it's the NIP system, and we've got another kid on this conveyor belt that's going to come in and give us immediate results, and we feel like things are going to be better. Didn't get it done on the big stage. Didn't get it done he was absolutely abysmal in the Virtus.pro series in particular. And unfortunately, there's no room at the inn for fucking, for people that can't afford the room. So yeah, this was really bad for Nip, and all of that hype for the big Swedish major that might not be even in Sweden now. It's really stopped a lot of the hype around Nip that they've fallen so flat at such a big tournament, as you said already on the show. Age like milk, all the hype.
I think this team's pretty whack, I have to say. Like, some of the pieces are good. Like, I wouldn't hate if you just took this team and you said, right, we're going to just build around the core of Device, Rez, and Hamper, so we're going to get 2 new players. I wouldn't hate that. I think, that's a team you could do. But you hear all these rumours about Fnatic removing players. Maybe some people from there you could bring. There's a bunch of different squads. You can go international. Obviously, you've already got Device. You can maybe just say, fuck it. Like, I wouldn't hate that. Because one of the things that's depressing about this team is, it's like, they very rarely have dominant maps. They're very rarely a team that has a high gears. It's not even like they're just inconsistent. Like, they're just not that good, mate. And the worst thing of all, we talked about it a couple of episodes ago. Mate, Device has sold his fucking soul to be in this team or something, mate. Like, it's just bad now. It's really bad. Like, it's actually depressing how bad it is. Because what's sad about it is, right, the tournament began playing Team Liquid, which, if you know, is like Device's fucking warm-up team in World Counterstrike for the last 6 years. Every version of Team Liquid gets their shit pushed in by Device on LAN. It's always been that way. So he did it again here, and he looked in fucking sick form. You're like, this is going to be amazing. And then every other series was just fucking a wet fart, mate. It was just a waste of time. And remember, you didn't just come over and go, oh, it's going to take time, do the football thing. It'll take time, and obviously I have to get in with the lads, and I've got to No, you came over. This is my chance to be #1 player in the world. This is my chance to win more major. You know what, guys? If we get that first tournament under our belt, eras can happen. Everything you oversold it. Like, you seem to think you were Astralis. What are you talking about?
I don't know. I'm a little bit. This is a tough one for me because, I don't want to feed the idea this, because I think it's nonsense that Device was like a system player, and it was actually the Astralis system that made Device great, rather than Device's greatness contributing to the totality that was Astralis. But yeah, the worrying series for me was the Gambit one. That's the one where he went missing. That's the one where you need him to come through. But I'm sympathetic because I watched the wheels come off big time. And I don't think it's any coincidence in the in the map where he got 7 kills against Gambit, which I think it might have been Inferno. Might have been one of the rare blowouts. There was actually 2 people I think got less kills than him. And one of them was that Liners kid. And so, when you're an AWPer especially, Like, people have got to do you a fucking favor. People have to hold their fucking, do their job. Because where a match can really start to fall apart for you as an opera is when you've got to start moving around the fucking map and you're not sure where people are. And now suddenly I'm looking at 2 spots instead of 1 because this guy got fucking picked like a moron over here. And, when Devices never had to deal with such levels of fucking badness, has he? He has at some point in his career.
It's a bit rich, isn't it? Because do you remember when I used to have to hear for years about how the reason why Nico and Simple carry and statistically it's because they're on bad teams and it's easy to carry bad teams because no one.
Yeah, I've heard that bullshit too. Yeah.
Now, what I'll say about that is, do you know who the top players in the world at the time were? Like Cold Zera, Device, Olaf Meister. That's aged like motherfucking milk. Because guess what, boys? That was sour to begin with. It was never right. It was the opposite. Like if you bozos couldn't figure out. By the way, look at the names I picked there as well, Nico and Simple. Yeah. I think that one's aged like one of the best takes of all time, probably, because they also then went to the top level. And as we're going to talk about later, Simple can have the best stats ever when 4 people on the team frag, and he's one of the 4. 3 people can frag out. He can still do those numbers. So it's all nonsense. I totally agree. By the way, there is no such thing as a pure system like star player that then wins all the titles. Like this is one thing people don't know. I might think Tom Brady is overrated, but I've never ever bought the idea he was a system quarterback. Maybe like for the first 3 years or something, he's inexperienced. After that, he's obviously balling out, and he's a very good player. So like the problem people don't get is a system player, like, will then eventually, at one point in time when you get to the top level, like Nip's trying to get at now, you're trying to be one of the best teams in the world. A system player could get to the top 10 maybe. Like a system player, it's happened many times in the NFL, can go to the playoffs. Yeah, of course. But they're not going to fucking win multiple series in a row and win the title. Like, it's very, very, very rare that's happening. It's usually been an insane fluke. So the idea, think about how many MVPs Device won. It's like, like fucking 14 or something. All those titles. Then you think about Tom Brady's obviously won like 7 champions. Like, listen, mate, even if 1 or 2 of these you disagree with, there's no amount of luck in the world can actually win you that many times. You've got to actually be good. But the point I'm making is this. I always was skeptical of the idea that you just put Device on a bad team and you go, the house is burning, Device, but just keep playing good anyway. Like, he ain't that player, mate. I don't think he's even got the ego for it, by the way. Even though I'm saying he's egotistical in the sense that like he did a bad job with the PR. Like he should have given himself an out basically on that one of like, I need time to get it going, like Carrigan tried to basically in FaZe. My problem is this, is like, I don't think he is the guy who when things go to shit, he's just like, right, fuck it, well, I'm still the best, so I carry. Nah, Device can be affected by a lot of factors, and his teammates, I think, are definitely one of them. I think that was the area that Astralis sort of covered for him, is that you always had people who would turn up, you always had people who do their job, you always had people who had a good mentality, who could pull you out of the fire. You don't have any of that in Nip at the moment, mate.
Like, put it this way, I don't get why they go to the final of Flashpoint. Things are looking good. Things, you can feel they're going through the gears. Then they drop ZTR, bring in this Linus kid. And, like, since he's joined NIP, like, just go look at his HLTV page, by the way. Like, this is so rough to do it. But, mate, it's like looking at fucking, Greece's national debt. It's just red. There's barely any black there at all in terms of positive scores. He's got like maybe 4 or 5, and the rest are red.
I'll even throw this in as well. I remember when they just changed to the LNZ guy after the first event they used him. I remember Maui Snake, who I do consider like an expert analyst. He's a guy who goes in the demos. Good, he doesn't just make up their opinions out of his ass. Obviously, he was a semi-pro player himself. He said that even though the 2 players had bad stats in the server, so if you're a fan, you're like, who gives a fuck? He said for him, if you watched how ZTR played, it looked like he was one of those players who could die but like do the right thing for the team.
Yep.
So it didn't matter as much if your stats were bad.
But that's what they all said.
Just looks bad.
That's what they all said when they put him in.
Yep,
that Hampus even said, like, it's not about his fragging. Like, we were going to even get him calling on a few maps to take some pressure off me so I can have and then it was like, all of that just went away, and I do not know what happened. Meanwhile, by the way, and I know it's a completely different level of player, obviously, he looks too good for the academy level. So what do you do with a player like that? You had to commit to him. And this idea, by the way, that, like, the NIP system is a revolving door for your 5th, where you occasionally promote, like, it's not fucking Pop Idol, mate. This is meant to be building a team to go and win championships. You don't just keep giving fucking chances to whoever who's had a good scrim today, right? All right, then. Okay. Sing your song, right? And then we're all going to vote on it. No, like, Linus has looked way worse, and the team has looked way worse with him in it. So I don't even understand what the premise is here. And like I said, the problem you've got is that when one person is so critically bad, and you've already got Plopsky that's kind of like doing this, like, I'm doing the work for the team and I'm doing the support work. And it's like, okay, so the other guy now there's additional pressure on him because the guy who's dying isn't the guy who's dying for the team. The guy who's dying isn't the guy that's throwing a flash so you get 3 kills. It's a guy that's meant to frag. It's a guy that's meant to hold the bomb site. It's a guy that's meant to hold a part of the map and stop it squeezing in and closing off. So the nightmare for an AWPer is suddenly where maps, zones where you have control, all that control suddenly goes away. So I know Device hasn't had a great tournament here, and people are saying he's washed up and he's not fit to lace the shoes of the greats. And obviously, Nico and Simple yet to come. We're going to talk about Ziwu next. I get that. This isn't Premier Primo 100% Device, but it was never going to be. But the Device they've got is better than was being represented here. And I think his teammates let him down. I legit do. I know we all have a bit of Schadenfreude. I don't think the results were Device's fault. I think the NIP management is a fucking clown fiesta. I think seriously, like it must be mental trying to concentrate when one of them little fucking cars comes into your fucking training room and all the fucking guys get out with their shit tweets. I'm off to misquote Gandhi today. Like it must like Device is a tenured, like whatever you want to say about Astralis, at least outward facing, they looked good. At least outward facing, they said the right thing. Like these guys are a fucking shit show, and you can even see like Device. It's got to be going over in his head. I've made a mistake, and I'll tell you why. Not because of the team, not because of the results, but because like all like the sheer lack of regard and concern from the NIP management. And let's be fucking clear. Much like the Bible, because it is a rip roaring read. They've already fucked over Device 3 times. They've already Judased him 3 times. How's that? Very first time, that interview with me was meant to be the
Peter, when Peter denied Christ.
Oh, Peter denied Christ. Yeah, I'm sorry. I said it's a rip roaring read. I haven't even read it. I'm a liar.
Maybe
I'm a liar.
Yeah,
no, maybe I should. Peter, Judas, all the same, innit? John's in there, isn't there? There's a Martin as well, probably. Matthew, Kenny. I don't know. I'm just make up names. Anyway.
Phil.
Yeah. Yeah, great one. Coming soon to esports. But anyway, you know, he denied him 3 times. First time, do you want an interview with Richard Lewis? First ever interview. Our PR company will do it. Right? Yeah, okay, no problem. Oh, yeah, we're not doing it now because we've just realized who Richard Lewis is and the type of questions you might ask. It was all Device's fault, by the way, bro. It's all Device. It wasn't us. Device doesn't want to talk to you. In fact, it's not that. Actually, he just forgot he was training right now. And so he's wasted your day and your time and your preparation. Something I know Device would actually never do. Not to me. So you fucked him over there. Then it's like, right, he's here. Let's put out the... Right, it's already tense because he didn't tell his boys over in Astralis. It's already tense, you know? So why don't we take some throwaway statement that he's just made talking into a camera? Why don't we make that a fucking headline on a vlog? Yeah, it's like we're 5 steps ahead of Astralis. You're not going to lead with that, are you? That's just for us internally or sponsors or something. Yeah. Don't worry about it, Dever. Fucked him over there. And then while he's enduring that, and also was the fucking... like, just burnt alive by the community, which shows how quickly these cunts will fucking turn on you. Word of advice to any players, any content creators, talent, you know, whatever it is. These don't ever pander. There's no point in pandering. All you're doing is delaying your inevitable crucifixion because the mob cannot be satiated. They will kill everyone until there is nobody left. And so Device, model, professional, beloved player, never done anything really wrong, maybe like said a few silly things, right? But like had to endure a very David Beckham-esque situation, all this grotesque comments about his girlfriend. He's never reacted, never bit. I always thought one of the reasons why he was a bit sensitive about you is because he when you did it, it was like because he took all of those HLTV threads and Reddit threads and then falsely in his mind attributed to you because you were fair game to go at rather than lash out at the fans, something Astralis certainly would never do. They pander for a living. And so I think that was one of the reasons why that blew up. He's put up with all of that. And then the Anonymous situation happens and he gets absolutely crucified. So he's feeling pretty sour about it. And then don't worry, while I'm going through my own crucible, you're going to tell me it's more important, bigger news, that you're floating on the US NASDAQ and merging with a Chinese company no one's ever fucking heard of over on this side of the water. That's more important than signing me, Device, your star player.
Let me give you a counterpoint. I'll push back a little bit.
Yeah, go on.
I'll take all that into consideration, but I agree. All of that context should be considered. This isn't just like he's just a player on a good team that has the pieces to win and he's shitting the bed. That is definitely not what is happening now, right? But here's my problem, Richard. Oh, well, how could he ever have known any of that? I mean, NIP was such a reputable org and never had any problems over
history. You
couldn't reach out to Forrest, Get Right, any of the million of players. You couldn't have gone and asked Freiburg, who, by the way, when we did like an interview at fucking Flashpoint, was saying like, and they didn't even give me any of the money for the fucking ice cream. And we just cut that out because even in Flashpoint, there was compromises like, oh, we don't want to piss off NIP, do we? So like, mate, look at the team you joined. Maybe don't decide your last stanza in esports for your career based on how close to your fucking apartment the venue is. This is stupidness. Like, that's my problem, Richard. If he'd have joined an organization, take your pick, someone like G2 or something, there isn't that track record. There isn't. Yeah. Like, I would be shocked, and I would give all of that the maximum possible importance. But you joined NIP, motherfucker, and you did it when they didn't have a lot of other great pieces, and you were the big draw coming in, and you let them do all this to you. And by the way, I'll add this in as well. Here's another thing. Have you come and actually tried to do anything about it? Have you told the right people in the community who, by the way, a lot of them would get you back like Richard did here? A lot of the analysts would. Nah, because Device does have a massive ego in that sense. So there you go. It's tough shit, in it, mate. Here's the thing. I can handle it when I go through the fire. Some people can't. That's why I'll agree with what you were saying. Here's the other reason if you're a pro player, don't ever fucking pander to the crowd. Because when you pander to the crowd,
the best piece of advice.
When you pander to the crowd for my head, here's what you don't know. In 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, they're going to come for your head. And when I make the jokes about you, the same motherfuckers retweeting and loving that shit. They're going to turn against you, you dumb fuck. So that's it. Like, mate, and I agree, mate, all Astralis. Astralis is like that fucking cunt who did that song with Kanye. All he can do is pander.
Yeah.
Not bad. He had a shit career after that. People don't know. It was the only song he did, wasn't it?
Yeah, but pretty nice reference, dude.
But back at the end.
But like, so that's all I'm saying. I think like they fucked up. They had a good thing going that definitely would have grown. ZTR has proven to me he's got the brains to develop into a top tier player. Also has the necessary lack of ego because at the end of the day, like all you have to be on that team is a water carrier. That's it. Hampus is a fragging IGL now, by the way. Rez is, as I've said, bona fide star. Device, all-time great. Like, just have somebody in there who's competent. I don't think Linus is the one. I know everybody was like, he did the CPR thing, didn't he? He overshot on his fucking debut. But yeah, I think this is really arrested. Like, just in terms of, do you think this could sort of stagnate the whole project or get people a little bit antsy and nervous? Do you think there's any chance of that? Or do you think actually, no, they'll just file this one away and it'll be, ESL Pro League starting and judge us on that?
One of the other reasons I don't really fuck with this NIP team is I don't think they're actually aggressively trying to make moves, mate. I think this was all... By the way, I essentially think this now, months later. Device, you fucking played yourself, you clown. What you did is you gave a team that had no business saying they were going to be a contender because they hadn't made the serious commitments. They didn't have a superstar name. They hadn't been able to get new players through their org. They basically got that one core, which is pretty decent. They had threat, they had some alright results, and they hadn't quite made it, and they hadn't had much experience on LAN. You went to that team, and you doing that, by the way, probably even allowed some of this stupid-ass move where they're doing this whole NASDAQ Chinese thing with 10-cent people. Like, you basically, you set the precedent to allow those people to do that. This is why he hasn't learned his lesson, Richard. He just did all this in Astralis. You just went through all this in Astralis, but at least in Astralis they had the team around you, for fuck's sake. This is like if Astralis had been North players and done all the same business shenanigans. Like, mate, you got to learn eventually. You got to learn.
Yeah. Well, he definitely is now. But
he got to learn today. He got to learn today.
Well, let's talk about Vitality. This is another team that went out in this 9 to 12 bracket that people had high hopes for, and of course, it feeds into the main storyline of Cologne in its fashion, because we've talked a lot, right? Because again, we love to use sporting analogies to talk about our very own unique thing that sporting analogies don't really encapsulate. But I suppose I can at least fuck with this one a little bit. You know, Simple and Ziwu, this idea that they were going to be, you know, this Ronaldo and Messi kind of overlap. Although it doesn't really work when you consider Ziwu so young and inexperienced. But
they're not close enough in age.
Yeah, but whatever, you know.
I even think, by the way, because I see
two great players playing at the same time.
I even think that people fuck the analogy every time, because the problem is, right, everyone. It's like all the other fucking great players that are 1A, 1B. Everyone who's a Messi fan thinks Ronaldo isn't even top 5. Like, they're all dickheads like that, Richard. So basically, you can always tell the people who are Messi fans, because they always tell me that Simple is the Messi of... If he's anyone, he's Ronaldo, you dumb fuck. Think about those two players in the context there. That doesn't even make sense that he'd be Messi. If anything, the Ziwu Messi one makes way more sense, doesn't it? Like, sort of has to play in the system, stayed there, even was a young player brought in, they built it. Like, give me a break. You guys can't hit any storylines. The same fans, where if you make an analogy, they just pick the one part of the analogy that doesn't fit, even though all the rest is fire. They can't do any analogies, mate. There's a garbage. Hence why, as you're saying, their idea of top tier banter is like Linus Tech Tips. It's like,
yeah, I know.
So that's nothing, mate. That's not even good the first time.
No, it definitely wasn't. So you had obviously Vitality coming into this, and you know, it's got to be said.
Here's the thing, Richard. I've even just given it 5 seconds, and I've already done a better one than them. Maybe they could have used Linus's tech tips during the Anonymous series at fucking Flashpoint. I've already made a better joke than Ollie in 5 seconds flat. Fucking retire now from being a shit poster on Reddit.
Right, back to Vitality for now. So Vitality, 9th to 12th, disappointing finish. And as I said, they feed into the main storyline of this competition because we got the whole Ronaldo versus Messi. I mean, the bottom line is that at the moment, the way things are going on in Vitality, and listen, credit to X-Taz, he's really got his hands full. They're bedding in, obviously, Kyojin at the moment. They've lost a lot of experience in terms of RPK going out. I still think there's something going on with Apex in this team because one of the things I want to talk to you about here is I do not like his histrionics. They've gone from kind of charming and interesting when they first started coming in, and now all that's ticking over in my mind is you do know you're the IGL. Like, you can't be like screaming and banging the table and Zutta Lauren and all that. Where every time you lose a round, like, I think passion's good, but yeah, I think the optics of that are pretty bad, and Apex is old enough to know better, and then you have to wonder about, we still never got to the bottom of him being cut at Katowice, well, before Katowice and then brought back for it. We never got to the bottom of that, did we? So, anyway, Vitality are far from firing on all fucking cylinders at the moment. I think X-Taz has his hands full for him. He's a great coach. A lot of respect for him. Hopefully he can turn it around. But right now, this delectable Messi versus Ronaldo matchup that we were supposed to get, it was more like fucking Matt Letizia versus fucking Ronaldo. It wasn't what it should have been. It wasn't what was promised. I think Ziwu, he's still very, very good, obviously. But no one's on the same planet as Simple. And unfortunately, this Vitality team, I'm starting to ask questions about whether or not that interview they did, where they went, of course, everything we do is about Ziwu, and Ziwu wouldn't be who he is without us setting him up and sacrificing everything. I'm starting to wonder if there was some truth to it, because now they've had to focus some attention on Kyojin and Masuta. Ziwu's still very good, but he's not looking as good.
Almost like that Alex guy was pretty good in-game leader, wasn't it? It's
Yeah.
almost like you wouldn't want your real in-game leader to be the guy where, as Richard says, he's a sick entry fragger, A massive whiner, by the way, one of the most notorious whiners in the history of professional CSGO. Imagine your in-game leader being a whiner. And, as you say, I think half of it's for the camera, because players do that where they start to get a meme around them and start to... But the difference is, whereas Carrigan does fun stuff for the camera, he's like a master fucking entertainer. Apex just looks like he's just killing everyone's fucking vibe, doesn't he? And then you add in as well, you got all these inexperienced players. Shocks hasn't been good for fucking ages, mate. He just has individual gear. He's become, you know what? I'll tell you what, Shocks, you're on that fucking shortlist for the CS royalty clip as well, mate. You're just like Forrest now. You just have to have one good map in 10 and everyone, he's back. He's back. You're not back, motherfucker. You aren't back at all. That's like you put one finger out the grave and then just put it back in again. You didn't even put the whole fist out and then climb out as a zombie. You just put one finger out and come back.
I mean, I'll say I don't. Shocks isn't looking like he didn't look like a problem, in my opinion. Here,
He's supposed to be a top player, Richard. He was bought for $300,000 to be a star player. He wasn't brought. This is one thing I hate about motherfuckers like Fall and all of my. It's when their whole argument is, well, I'm not the absolute worst in the team. That's not what you're here for. That's like, dude, imagine if when fucking, I can't even remember his bloody name now. What was that player, the Spanish player that played for Liverpool as a striker and he went to Chelsea for $50 million or whatever? Torres, sorry, yes, Torres. Yeah, you're right, Torres. Yeah. And basically tanked his career after that, at least at domestic level, right? If he'd have just gone, I'm not the worst in Chelsea, it's like, motherfucker, we paid like 70 million for you. And you score like 25 goals a season. We didn't bring you here to not be the worst on the team. That's not even how the economics of the game work. So like, Shocks, get your shit together, mate.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, I think at this like tournament, it didn't stand out as egregiously an issue. I think like the problem you've got here is like they're hitching all their kind of fortunes on how good is Kyojin gonna be, and sure, we saw decent level of performance against Furia. Furia, the ultimate Jekyll and Hyde team, who have a very shallow map pool, which got hit very hard with Train going out of the rotation, because that was like one of the 3 maps they had down. Masuta, a lot of people think maybe Nibira was the one to keep. And then it's like, well, you know, Apex, he's at the tail end, and you suddenly, like, people used to meme about the old Vitality lineup. Oh, it's just Ziwu and 4 French people. You know, I'm not saying this is true, but
it's that.
You make a better case for it.
Put it this way: there's only one player on this team right now, and that's why I'm talking about Shocks. Shocks can still win the odd clutch. He obviously still understands the meta of top Counterstrike, right? It's not impossible he could be good again. Masuta is a very inexperienced. People forget this. Masuta, what fucking lands has he been to? Am I missing something? Like, wasn't the whole purpose of this LAN, if anything, if there's one lesson we learned from this LAN, there's a reason why I've made this argument a million times that you can't just buy LAN experience. You have to earn it. You have to go there. You have to take your losses. You have to sometimes you have nightmare times where it takes people a year to get good on LAN. Like sometimes you get, you know what? Sometimes like Zero, you get lucky. It just happens immediately and everything's awesome. But the amount of people who sort of thought, it's not that the online era wasn't real. It was real in that context, but it's a very different context to offline. And the reason why this was telling to me is because, as you pointed out in the last episode, this isn't even true LAN, mate. If you're having trouble when it's like an empty arena, God forbid that arena was full of Brazilians chanting for you, literally, you will die as you walked out. Yeah, shit your pants before you even get there. So a lot of these teams that are learning the hard way, like, fuck, our lineup isn't what we thought it was. And this team right now, mate, Vitality's not exactly that great online. Like, this team looks fucking done. What's this team going to do at the major? Nothing.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to see, like, because it's like you say, I mean, people forget as well, like, Kyojin's come in and we're talking about him like he's like the 15, 16-year-old they're looking to, like, develop. But actually, he's actually older than Masuta. And so, yeah, they've got 2 very, very green players, and they're having to essentially completely rebuild a system. Like, you know, whatever you want to say about RPK, again, he was the ultimate, like, role player. He's gonna do his job, and he knows what his job is. You tell him what his job is, he goes and does the job to the best of his ability. and he's got bags of experience, and he probably does have one or two things in his head. Although I never thought he was a particularly cerebral player. He played more, instinctively. But he probably does have one or two little things. Okay, if like what do they call those? Like mind maps you make, where it's like decision trees. So it's like if A goes bad, they call them. It's this thing they do in like. When they're training you up, you do these things like decision trees, they're called. So it's like if A goes bad in a game, you go here. I was talking about it with the League as well recently. If A goes bad, this is B, but then if B goes bad, you have a C and a D, and then and all of these things are situations in a game.
Like Norwich, if anything goes bad, you just fire the coach and make Stewie there in game leading, don't you?
Yeah,
how we do things around here.
That is unfortunately how that flow chart's looking over there. But like in Vitality, you've got players who, I mean, like Kyojin didn't even think he was going to have a pro career until this year.
By the way, as a sidebar, just because we're not going to mention it otherwise, one thing I forgot to mention on the Liquid one, I laughed at this. Even though technically it's content for, I'll give it a shout out. Go watch it. It's actually got some interesting comments in it beyond the initial premise. Elige did his top 5 NA players of all time.
Yeah, I saw that.
This motherfucker lacks self-awareness. He picked all 5 members of the 2019 Team Liquid squad. By the way, Elige, you fucking suck. If you had the 5 greatest North American Counterstrike players of all time and you couldn't get it done, you fucking suck, mate. You just suck. Because by your own words, you have no excuse. You don't have an excuse. Unless your logic is literally Americans are inferior, you don't have a single fucking excuse to give, mate. That's so dumb. That's so dumb.
But he did as well. What was great?
Good reasons, but even so, the ranking's so egregious in it.
What he did as well was, because I did watch that, obviously. He did when we all did another one where it was like we had to talk about like best players from your region. I think that was. I can't even remember who the fuck I named because it was like UK. So what am I going to do? But Elige said himself, and so
I like that though, because here's the problem. I hate false modesty. By the way, I even think it's no joke. I even think false modesty isn't a good thing. I know people are going to say, Richard, no, but you got to like always believe that no. If you for real put in the work, you won the championships, you got up the numbers, and you really are the best. The only reason you're saying you aren't the best is so a fucking loser feels better about themselves. It ain't because you're being egotistical. Like, in that scenario, it is legit for him to say he's the best. It'd be the same as if Simple did a video and he was like, actually, I'm not the best. It was like fucking Flusher 4 years. No, come on, man. You have to say yourself. You have to. If it's real, you have to say yourself. Come on.
Anyway, Vitality, I think have got some issues. Again, you've always got that sort of ticking time bomb where, Ziwu seems to be a humble dude now. Let's see what he's like when he's, CS is winding down and we get a year down the road and he's not won a major and he's not won trophies and all the fans are criticizing him. And, we'll see if he still wants to kind of ride or die with these guys. But I think the next flashpoint in this team is going to be about Apex. I think there's something weird there, and it's never been resolved. And I think that'll be the next thing. As Vitality will be fools to get rid of Xtaz. So who knows? Watch the space. Heroic next up, 7th to 8th. Everyone's been saying onliners, lol.
By the way, credit to Cadian because
I saw that joke.
This is how you lean into a meme. He did the joke himself where when it was announced the ESL Pro League is going to be online, he was like, "You're like thumbs up."
We're back, boys.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's legit. That's how you fucking meme Nico and the other fucking stick up your ass idiots of the world. Just lean into it, make it your meme.
Now, I am gonna have to do something I never thought I would have to do. But yeah, I think this is massively overplayed, the idea that, heroic onliners or whatever. I think Spirit, even though they did finish in that last bracket there, and we didn't talk about them because I haven't got time to talk about everybody. And to be fair, you'd already said you felt Spirit would be one of the teams that got found out when we went back to LAN and probably wouldn't look as strong as they did for no particular reason, just that natural fall off and whatnot. Yeah. But that that series was mega close. Came down to an overtime on a double overtime on Ancient. I mean, fuck, new map, whatever. So Heroic did win that one. They lost to Astralis. That's the one that hurts, obviously. But it's I'm gonna have to do it. Refresh. I had a fucking nightmare. It was all of your nightmares coming to life. That Inferno performance from him, 7 kills. It was rough. And this is a player I've been nothing but glowing about, and I was expecting him to pop off and power Heroic through. I think he's been so good in this Heroic lineup during the online era. But yeah, man alive, a LAN to forget. But that series in particular, and I don't know if it's something like the Danish Derby got maybe a little bit deer in the headlights or something. I don't know what it was, but whatever. They lose to Astralis. Astralis had a miracle run, which we'll talk about in a sec. But then he also bottom fragged against FaZe. Was sort of instrumental in them losing that series, which was very back and forth. It was 16-10s right across the board. And so you kind of... I don't know what I expected Heroic to do, because I thought there'd been an appreciable fall off anyway.
They'd already been slipping.
Yeah. I mean, so fans were like going in on them, or they're onliners,
Think about this context.
They'd already fallen off in the last few tournaments.
The 2 teams they lost to went to the semi-finals.
Yeah.
That means literally, for all we know, they were the 5th best team here.
Yeah.
I don't even think they're that bad. I even agree with you, by the way. If you look at the performance, like, for example, listen, he wasn't doing like the ridiculous like Zemu numbers he was doing at the beginning of the year, but even Cadian was pretty good on LAN. Tessa's turned up. These are all the players you worry about, like, as a team, I don't think they're going to be like killers on LAN, but they were actually fair. I think they gave a good account for themselves. I didn't have any hate for Heroic at this tournament. I don't know why they would be online as one. I guess just because they were number one. The problem if you're big or Heroic is if you were number one in the world, like, you can't go LAN and be.
It doesn't even work though, because they were on LAN. They were essentially on LAN conditions when they won Pro League. That's what I don't understand. It's like, there is barely any difference between the conditions Heroic won ESL Pro League and the conditions they played here at Cologne.
I mean, there's ping, but I agree with the rest. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Other than latency, that's about it.
Yes.
And obviously that makes a big difference. But
I think you're not going to play half as good just because it's 30 ping, of course.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like going to be some insane drop off like that. So it was like I didn't understand it, but people were like, "Yeah, online era, mate. Wait till we talk about Gambit. In fact, fuck it, let's talk about Gambit.
Yeah, do
it. Because I've got a guy. I've got to find it because I did archive it. But there was like a Nip fan who was on Reddit, and he was going, "You'll see, you'll all see. They're all cheaters, see." And every time they were winning these like close series, because I thought, right, like I know everyone was willing Gambit to lose. I fucking hate this community and what it's become. By the way, we've been saying for fucking years that the CIS region is super strong, and you finally get a team go out, pick up a bunch of these like young, unknown guys, combine it with a veteran in the former Hobbit, completely reinvent his career. And we sit, yeah, CS was boring, same old teams winning, Astralis keep winning, I'm going to stop. Well, you can't even appreciate greatness when you see it. And so we get into an era, which wasn't even an era. We're all stuck indoors because of fucking COVID and all this stupid dystopian nightmare unleashed on us, and instead of like looking at that and assessing it sort of on some critical level, Gambit breakthrough. They must be cheating. Must be cheating. They're bullshit. They'll never do it. They'll never do it at LAN. Never do it at LAN. And they were being willed to lose so hard by a community that should be supporting these guys. They're all nice people. They're all super nice pros. They're all do interviews all the time. They're very self-reflective. If you've watched their appearances on HLTV, very emotional as well, like Nafani talking about all the hate he got and how it does affect him. He wasn't ready for that. And they just have the temerity to come out of a region where there is one super team that everyone must bow to and support. And as I said, there is rapidly nothing more insufferable and, as you'll see, deluded than a Na'Vi fan right now in this moment. They eclipse anything. I think they eclipse TSM even. I think it's insane.
They've even got that fucking exceptionalism, like disorder, where they just believe they should be number one.
Yeah.
They were in the team and they actually were simple, you know. Like,
yeah. So, you know, let's talk about this Gambit run here, because this does not tell the fucking story. Have you ever seen an event of this size, by the way, where the number one team in the world comes in and has this for a run? Sixth best team in the world. Your first match. You're the number one team in the world, 16 teams. You're playing the sixth best team in the world. After that, seventh best team in the world. After that, fifth best team in the world. This is going on HLTV rankings.
Okay.
Right? After that, third best team in the world. And then, because of FaZe's own crazy miracle run, with Carrigan unleashing a psychological masterclass, they have to play FaZe, who were like 36th in the world or whatever it was, but we all know that's bullshit.
Of course.
Now, they've been due a loss to G2, by the way.
Oh, of course.
Right? So the loss to G2, which came down to one fucking round and one mistake on Inferno, or we just have never ended overtime. We're probably still playing that game now, by the way. Right? So everyone, onliners. 16-13 on Mirage against G2. G2 bang anyone out on Mirage. Vertigo, their pick, they won at 16-10. Then Inferno. The perennial fucking coin toss. It's who blinks first, that map. There is no artistry to it anymore. It's who blinks first. It's like who makes the mistake that actually enables the CT to win that one round. That's exactly how that map played out as well. So I don't consider that a mad loss. I think G2 was secretly my stealth picks to actually win the tournament. And then the FaZe one is the surprising one. But maybe it isn't surprising, because they lose that first map on Ancient, right? 16-13, still fine margins, but they showed real for the only time in the tournament, by the way, when they were under pressure, because Gambit had a number of leads that they surrendered and they lost maps because of it. They battle back on Overpass. They're great on Overpass. They're one of the best teams in the world in Overpass. They beat FaZe, double OT, and then you go into Inferno, and it was the one time I saw a blowout. And I watched Gambit wilt. I watched them psychologically kind of break down at this tournament. But it was a number of things. It was having the extra, game day, having this unbelievably tough run, like you say, having that new experience of playing at LAN. But the fucking outrageous reaction from the
pathetic. You would have thought they came last place, for real.
Like, the same fans that when Na'Vi were 5th to 6th, Na'Vi were 9th to 12th at Pro League. Well, there's context around that, and it's online, but not about that. I mean, the format's broken, and Na'Vi were 5th to 6th at Katowice. One of the most insipid title defenses you'll ever see a top tier team do. Yes, well, of course, but then they had that bad run and they had that bad luck. Gambit have won all these tournaments, dominated online, handed Na'Vi their arse more times than Na'Vi have done it the other way around, but credit, Na'Vi have done it in finals. No one's disputing that, but let's all still pretend that CIS RMR was a reverse sweep. Let's all pretend, right? But this reaction to Gambit's defeat here was appalling. Like, I understand if it was Astralis dominating for 4 years, if Gambit had been winning every tournament for 4 years and they finally lost, fine. If this was NIP, game at a critical time, 87-0 streak, where literally the game was on the precipice of collapse because people are so pathetic in esports, they wouldn't sponsor a sport if they can't win it. Right? Instead of questioning, well, what do we do to win? I just won't sponsor it. Fuck it. Find another game. It's none of that. The Gambit era isn't even an era. It'll always have the asterisk of being online. And we all said we wanted new teams and new players. And from the most talented region right now. And everybody shot on these guys. It's shocking, the reaction. And I don't even think they look that bad.
They're one of the best teams in the world.
They still are, yeah.
Yeah,
No, but they looked like one of the best teams in the world here.
There's a world at this tournament where they could easily have been in the final, the semi-final. I don't know if they'd have won it. Like, as you say, there were some noticeable things. Like, for example, Axile, probably the most reliable fucking entry type player in the whole world. He had his moments against FaZe. He looked a little bit shook. I'll say as well, you did notice, just like at the CISRMR, when the coach can't talk all the time, they don't look quite as genius. They're still very good, though. Like, by the way, most of the players that you want to frag out, Shiro, like, they're still fucking putting the numbers up. If they're shit on LAN, you wouldn't do that against, as you say, the best teams in the world, all top 10 teams. And then also the FaZe Clan loss. It's like, mate, to imply that is like, oh, but they lost to the 36th best team. They lost to one of the best on-the-fly in-game leaders to ever play Counterstrike. And in that game, he didn't even just play a normal. He was playing. It was like that was almost like a vintage Carrigan performance. He was toying with you in a way where if you've never been on LAN and had that happen to you, where a guy does make every genius read and every fake works and every rotation, until you've had that happen, this is what I would say to Gambit. Welcome to real tier 1 Counter-Strike. Online, you are the best, undoubtedly. In fact, I even think if they can continue with what they showed me here and shore up some of the weaknesses, they're going to be like basically the ZWoo of teams. They're going to be the team that comes into the scene and isn't just like, oh, they're going to need some time. They'll be one of the best immediately. Like, by the time the major comes, they could absolutely be a favourite to win it. But I don't get the hate on him in that sense. It is just Na'Vi fans of people being fucking idiots, basically. So I thought generally they played pretty well. As you're saying as well, mate, every loss was super close. They could win these series.
I mean, like, put it this way as well. There was that just spectre of, have Na'Vi got our number as well? Are we going to face them? It looked like it was on course, destiny-wise. And meanwhile, let's talk about the other part of the story by bringing FaZe into this, as you said, another disgusting reaction from the community. Because, like, listen, I've said, like, put it this way, there's no excuse for FaZe's performance online. If I was employing them, they would have had a rocket up their ass, and maybe they would have been cut. I don't know.
It's like I said about Cloud9. When you shell out that much money, you can only get results in return. You cannot have moral victories. You cannot have close games, and we were in it, and we won a map off a top. No, you must win. I'm paying you millions.
If the agreement was, judge us on our first LAN and make brutal cuts after that if you want to, then fine. If that was the agreement, fine. But I thought the way Carrigan had handled the media up until the run-in with Cologne, I thought it was pathetic, saying you want 12 months and saying, and saying that this is the best iteration of FaZe. We just haven't shown it yet. And it's online anyway, mate. And it's online. It doesn't count because it's online. It's like, for all you know, online, because as we found out, straight back to online after this. It's LAN, bro. Stop, straight back to online. For all you know, online might be, we don't even know what's going to happen in the next few months. Don't rule out all bets being off. Right, and because of ridiculous travel restrictions that are likely to come down, where people are going to be like, seriously, I do not envy the guys at PGL having to plan a major around all this uncertainty. So at the end of the day, online might be all we have. Like, are you going to go back to being shit now that you've had this good run and got the fans back over? But I will just say this. One thing I've noticed, and I like to say, I now just treat social media interactions as me basically looking at a fucking petri dish of bacteria and just seeing which way it's spreading and which way is it going to kill me if I inject it into me. That's literally the only way to appreciably interact with the social media ramblings of esports fans. It's all you can do, because I've seen so many people say to me, people send me DMs of vitriolic hate and abuse. Because I think Carrigan's a future Hall of Famer IGL. Said it many times. I say that because it's fucking true. It's not. It's objectively true. It will happen. There are not many better in the game. Now, sure, he's definitely.
He's got.
Yeah. Like what? Like, I'm not saying he's first run. I'm not saying he's the first name on the list. I'm not saying he's the greatest IGL of all time. Right. But he's going to be in there eventually. And by eventually, I don't mean at the end. I mean, because you don't put everyone in a Hall of Fame. It would be fucking pointless. So at the end of the day, there was loads of fans who've been sending me abuse about that. It's lies. He's had one good run. He with some mouse sports. He got lucky, and yeah, he used to choke at semi-finals. Then we're about to choke at semi-finals. Couldn't win a major with FaZe. What a bum! Like, keep in mind, of course,
You
again,
can't win a major. You're one round from winning.
Yeah.
Why are people this dumb? It's mental, isn't it? It's that one thing they always do, Rich. It's the most.
But Simple's the GOAT.
Yeah.
And hasn't got a major. Same person.
I know, imagine
same brain.
What I'll never understand is this. Why did they always act like the result of the game was the only result could ever happen? Like, by their logic, no joke, Cloud9 never needed to be worried, Richard. Even when they were down 11 to 15, they were always going to win the game. So they were always, of course they weren't worried. They were always going to win. It's the stupidest way of thinking ever. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
So now, I hope everybody realizes, right? There is more to this game than just saying on a server, rush B. Pay attention, Nico. It's why you can't be an in-game leader.
Yep.
So they rightly identified very early on, we've been shit online for a long time. We're going to be in some real pressure because we've talked about how the only thing that matters is LAN playing. The only thing that matters is online. So don't worry. I know how to completely flip this around. They were talking about how confident they were, how this was the best team. Rain said it. Olaf said it. Carrigan said it. They said, in fact, Carrigan said the only reason you get out of bed in the Counterstrike team, innit, is to have a chance to play in front of a crowd. But LAN is a different beast. And I'm confident this phase is ready for LAN, because that's what we do. So we took all the pressure off the players. Keep in mind as well, by the way, you coming into this event, essentially it's the wild card. You were the second lowest ranked team in world rankings after Renegades, who were 50th at the time of coming into this. So there should be there's expectation, but probably no pressure, especially with how bad there's been. Now, we all know as well the reality of this business. If they tanked here, someone's probably getting cut or a change is happening. People are going to question Olaf Meister. But this is the other thing. They brought Olaf Meister back. People were a little bit... So they've had Olaf Meister in the press. And, mate, what they did was they did all of that groundwork. Then they let the results do the talking. And then ahead of the Gambit game, that's when they went ham. That's when they went into overdrive. Olaf Meister saying, yeah, it's like, and this was probably aimed a little bit of heroic as well, based on the timing of what he said. People don't play with the same big balls on LAN. Carrigan reiterating it, ramping it up. Now imagine you're in Gambit's position. You're already being called onliners. People are already intimating that you're cheaters. You're meant to be the best team in the world. You have to realistically be in the final of this competition, or people's going to say all your tournaments you've won before are illegitimate, because that's the nature of the beast. And keep in mind, I'm the guy defending Gambit when I'm one of the most... when the online era started, I said, by the way, forget anything you see in this. Like, I said that. I'm from source. It's all bollocks. I knew we were going to get coaching scandals and people using fucking shaded glitches and anything else. I knew the results were going to be fucking nonsense. If people will walk up to the line of installing something and they will use every competitive edge if they can get away with it in their fucking bedroom. And also, it's super nice and comfy and cozy. Ooh, with these delicious chicken tendies. Ooh, a nice lemon sip because I was coming down with a cold. Thanks, Mom. It's not LAN. It's not what LAN is, right? That's where you prove you're a champion. But at the end of the day, it's all we had. Gambit have shown they're still one of the best teams in the world, if still not the best team in the world. But Carrigan knew there was one hole you could exploit. And obviously, he did a tactical masterclass that we completely wrecked him on Inferno. I think he showed him as well that he's got a very good handle on Ancient that maybe Gambit don't have. Although there was a little bit of overconfidence there. But then again, I do understand with the way the veto went, how that map comes out. But ultimately, the pressure they were under was the extra guy on the server for FaZe. And by the time Inferno came rolling around, you saw Gambit had nothing left. And like you said, it's never been done to them before. They do this to other teams. Yes. They were doing this to Na'Vi up until Na'Vi said, should we just start trying to play like Gambit with the players we've got and see how it works? Oh, yeah, we should have done that instead of that whack 2015 flip side bullshit that we've been pulling out, where 10 seconds, rush B. Brilliant. Great strats, guys. With the best fucking player in the world, you're doing that. So this is what a good IGL does. He protected his players. He had his tactics all down. He prepped everyone, but he created an almost impenetrable layer of self-belief. You had Brokey. Remember, like, what was Brokey's first big LAN? Was it like IEM New York? I can't even fucking remember when that was.
Yeah.
Right? So you had and Twist's been out the game for a while, and what's he gonna do? And man alive, both of those star players activated. Olaf seems to actually look like some sort of competent pseudo support player all of a sudden, and Rain's just a fucking great soldier. That's the guy you take to LAN. That's the guy you have in your teams, because Rain will do anything to win, and he won't question it. And afterwards, he'll say, "Just happy to be here, folks." Yeah, this was everything that Carrigan does well in a team, and more so. And they shouldn't have beat, based on results, they shouldn't have beat Heroic. They shouldn't have beat Gambit. They shouldn't have beat Vitality. Things were looking ropey after an opening day loss to Astralis, but, you know, the run that they had, and also you never knew if Na'Vi were going to have a wobble, because I bet my bottom dollar Na'Vi were preparing for Gambit. So, fantastic performance from FaZe. And like I say, I will lay it all on Carrigan's doorstep. Fight me if you think I'm wrong.
Right, I do still think like Olaf Meister can't remain in this team. Like, this is proof that you need the one extra player, and then you're right there. Because one of the things I told people during this online era that everyone else just seemed to dismiss for some reason was it is awfully suspicious that the top 10 continuously has so few of the great in-game leaders in it. Like, it just has all these newer players, or even people who just swapped to being an in-game leader, or people who've never been on LAN before. This LAN right now, just look at like FaZe with Carrigan and Astralis with Glaive had no business being in these semi-finals. No business whatsoever. But they did it because those are two of they're number one and number two. They're the greatest in-game leads to ever play this game. And by the way, neither of them have shown me yet that their tanks are empty. They look like they've got years to go. Because remember, their shit's all up here. They're not trying to do a blame F and frag out as well. Their shit is all up here and what they can do with the players with them. And by the way, you know what everyone loves to do with Carrigan? Because he is one of the most hated players, because unfortunately he's got the problem at basically, I'll be real, I'll just say it right now. Because he hasn't won the major, a moron can't understand that he's the best. And then secondly, they know I big him up. That's all you need to fuck a player. Asking existence. They'll tell you right there. So basically, people want this guy to fail. And I heard the same things you did, Richard. Oh, but if he was so good, then what did you... you said he makes all the players better. He took literally retired Olaf Meister to a LAN and got him top 4. Are you out your fucking mind? He took Twists. Everyone's going to go, shut up. Twists is amazing. Twists literally had a couple of online tournaments he hard carried when there were zero expectations. That guy hasn't been a really great LAN player for a long time. Hasn't been a really great online player for a long time, aside from those couple of months. He took that guy and had him looking exactly like I was dreaming of when I said, just give Carrigan Twists and that's all you need. Like, he is just literally, no joke, one piece. Give him one piece and he could maybe even win that major. It's not impossible. You'd be a dark horse still, but it's not impossible.
Well, you know, when the team was put together, we were like, this has to be one of the best teams in the world. That was the expectation I'd set for it. They've fallen unbelievably short since then. But yeah, listen, I'm not, when I said Olaf's something like a competent support player, I'm by no means all in on that as being the definitive phase. I think the difference is, I think actually, if they got the breaks and avoided a couple of teams and let some of the big dogs eat each other, I could see this FaZe team going one better at another tournament that they were at. Like, if they play like this and they're able to essentially get the most out of Carrigan and his ability to sort of like you say, read the game, play people against each other. Obviously, they came super prepped, as their analyst said. Yeah, I mean, like, I if this is FaZe moving forward, stand by my original statement. I don't think they can be the best in the world with Olaf on the roster. That was said when Cold Zero was still a part of the team.
Yes, of course.
And listen, the way FaZe is still spending money, credit to them. I mean, they can afford to.
Another team I give props to, for sure.
Probably some... now, here's another crypto. Help the kids. It's says it helps the kids in the name, so it's definitely nothing to worry about.
Content never gets content banned off Reddit, isn't it, Richard?
Yeah, weird, isn't it? Yeah,
it's
weird.
Almost like there's a standard there.
Mate,
standard.
In that article that I've had to start rewriting because that Windows update bricked my fucking hard drive, which was another one of my hard drives.
Holy moly!
Yeah, it did.
Did you have much stuff on there?
I lost about 6 months of writing, but only stuff I'd written since I've been in the UK. So I lost, I'd only lost probably all told shit I'd want to keep or haven't published, maybe like 5,000, 10,000 words, like maybe a dissertation's worth.
Okay.
Not a big deal. But anyway, but
So
I've
about
done,
as much as some HLTV org writers have written in their entire career. Then wow,
yeah.
that's terrible, Richard. Yeah.
So the bottom line is I've just written a bit and I've been rewriting it now about how like this is all you need to know about the esports industry. FaZe have been involved in scam after scam after scam, and it's the same routine every time. What's the popular scam? People in FaZe are doing the popular scam. Oh, the org never signed off and told these people how to do it. There's no way we would ever do that because that would be really bad. And we condemn the scam. Here's the apology for the scam. Here's us monetizing the apology of the scam. What's the next scam? They've done it with let's make a video game and crowdfund it. Whoopsie, no game. Let's own a skins casino. Whoopsie, do we? Oh, don't we? Oh. Let's break FTC violations in advertising. Whoopsie. And now crypto pump and dumps. Whoopsie. I'm probably missing out some others. And yet, when they were put on the cover of Sports Illustrated, when they were chosen to be our esports gods and representatives, oh, everybody clapped. They clapped like a nerd in fucking Rogue One.
That's weird, isn't it, Richard? Why isn't it that they're all the people in the industry are just saying, how can anyone associate with FaZe Clan after they've done this? Like, they must be boycotted. Everyone must. They are horrible. This is the fucked thing. This is what I will always say. I've said this a few years back, but listen, you're better pray I don't get big in some other area of the world, in some other field. Because best believe I will do interviews with major publications where I just drop dime on what esports is really about.
You don't have to worry, mate, about dropping dime. I'm a beat you to the punch. I'm a beat you to the punch this year. It's all coming out. I'm fucking done. No, I am telling you, brother.
I just found something we've got to do a quick sidebar on this.
What?
I can't. This is a clown world. It's not real, Richard. It's a simulation. Please, what? Sam, just bring this up. There is no awareness. There's no self-awareness. This isn't a joke. This isn't the Onion, Richard. This isn't a joke. This is real.
Yeah, no, I saw this, but it's not.
No.
It's not. It's a parody. It has to be a parody, though. It's a parody, right?
But it's the Esports Observer.
Yeah. It's got to be a parody, although it's.
I mean, it's not presented. No. It's in people and pop culture, and you
know. No. To be fair, I saw it and I thought, there's no way it's real. There's no way it's actually that ESL.
I haven't logged in and read the article, but like they're claiming it as a real thing.
No. I did. I saw it as well. Yeah, I did.
Basically, ESL is doing a version of the board game Monopoly.
Yeah, it's on screen now. I know.
Himself, like Ralph Reichart. You have to have the least self-awareness that any motherfucker probably ever to work in. Bear in mind, like, your tenure in this industry. Like, you're the guy who, when Rob Crosley just spit roasted you in front of everyone, went, think I nailed that. Like, no, the opposite. The exact opposite, in fact. You know, give me a break. Like, here's the problem, Richard. I will admit, I so badly want this to be real. I can't lie. Like, I'm invested. I want it to be real because if it's real, it's
no. It is real. It is real. It is real.
You have to realize this would be like a dictator going, and I'm going to put on my own board game, genocide. Like to the UN. Like, what are you talking about, Sid? I'm like, give me a break, mate. Give me like this would be like if there was like a China sponsored edition next to Monopoly, and it was just the whole world was the board. Like, again. The world has gotten so bad. The Onion. No, I haven't even read The Onion in about 15 years, mate. Because
there's no point.
Yeah, the real world's worse, isn't it? Like, I know.
But yeah, I mean, look, like it's like, it's like, just imagine like everybody saying, "Good job." I am so glad you, FaZe Clan, are our esports representatives. Is there any esports professional on the cover? Oh, no. Vanity dictates that actually it must be the biggest streamers, none of which are currently active pro players. And even though we've got a really good Call of Duty team, and of course this legendary CS team with legendary members in it, they don't get to represent FaZe because that actually isn't big enough to make this whole synergy.
Meister, two-time fucking three-time two-time major winner.
Meanwhile,
don't put him on the cover.
Meanwhile, when Pasha was on the cover of L in Poland, a lifestyle magazine,
looking like fire, by the way. Did you see?
Yeah.
Here's what I like about Pasha, right? I've never been a big fan of when people get like too muscly. Like when your arm really is like the size of two heads, that's too much for me.
Yeah,
he's actually now looking straight fire, mate, 'cause he's just like toned it down a little bit. He looks fucking sick for his age.
Oh, mate, he absolutely fucking crushed it. And not only that, though, what was crucial about that, instead of it being a bastardization of esports like Sports Illustrated was, where literally it barely mentioned esports at all. It was just all about how like they've grown their brand through streaming and merchandising drops. And it's like, what's this got to do? Is it Sports Illustrated or Flavor of the fucking Month Illustrated? Right? The L magazine was him talking about how, like, yes, he'd always been fit, but he realized that, like, when he was traveling the world and doing this stuff, he had to look after himself better, and that actually, you know, the esports lifestyle, a lot of gaming has negative stuff associated with it, but actually, it's a synergistic relationship. It was actually doing us a fucking great job as an ambassador, and barely anyone mentioned it. Barely anyone in this shit business mentioned a fucking legendary player, you know, who's now like a streamer and just chilling, enjoying his money, his retirement, his family, as he's got every right to do. Still out there, still hustling, still ambassadoring for us on the cover of a magazine. 60 retweets. 20 comments, you know, no one cares. Sports Illustrated with a bunch of provable liars and thieves. That's my esports.
Richard, I've got an update and I can't take it. I just can't take it. I'm out. Listen.
Okay,
it is real because it's being sold on the ESL shop. It costs €50.
Perfect.
It's even pathetically price gouging for Monopoly. For fucking Monopoly. Let me have a look. Does it show the board?
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for now. ESL.
Yeah, it is. You can zoom on the side. There's pictures. Let's have a look what's on this board.
God, I can't believe this is what our podcasts devolved to. Like, I knew it was getting self-indulgent. But...
No, but this is like, it's just nonsense. Remember, ESL themselves don't own anyone's likeness, right? So there's no, like, you know, it's not like you have gone to Flush's domain, get lifted and go to jail. No, like, it's just stuff about, like, the esports industry or something as far as I can say. It's just shit. Yeah, and for some reason, they haven't even bothered to actually change, like, go to jail or, like, fucking free parking or whatever.
Might be hopefully appropriate.
Even though free parking makes no sense in the context of an esports monopoly, but whatever. Right, and maybe free parking's when Cloud9 get invited to, like, events for 2 years after they were good at some, I don't fucking know. Go to jail should obviously not even exist in esports because no one goes to jail.
So hang on, it's events, is it?
It's just shit, mate. Who's going to buy this? What wanker is going to buy this? Seriously. And then it's like a really vague, but obviously just Team Liquid from that picture. It's like them lifting like fucking the Cologne trophy or like, get the fuck out of my face.
Wonder if Team Liquid know. I mean, maybe, because this is the other thing. It sounds daft, but because they're all the fucking Louvre agreement teams, I'm pretty sure
could be in there, I guess, yeah.
I'm pretty sure in the contract you had to give up image rights so they could promote stuff. So imagine if you're out there selling a board game for 50 a pop and you're not giving Liquid any of that. I'd need to see what else was on the board, because if they've like used brand names.
Oh,
but
mate,
it looks like it's their event circuit.
Yeah, this is how shit the concept is, right? Here's the thing. I was making fun of it at first, but initially in my brain, I was thinking, right, esports, it's going to be that, like, you know, you buy like fucking Boxer, or you buy like fucking Simple, or you buy, you know, that's going to be no. You buy like DreamHack Masters or DreamHack Masters. I bought the DreamHack Masters set. Like, give me a break. What is this? This is garbage. This is nothing.
Yeah.
ESL are the dumbest fucks of all time. Because think about it, right? This is just like a cheap cash. It's not even a cheap cash. You get €50 for it. Is that really what Monopoly costs? €50? Surely it's like €10. Am I out of touch or something? Am I like when one of the Tories tries to say how much milk is or something? Is it really €50 for a board game? Isn't it like €50 for like a fucking
Nintendo Switch?
Whatever the new console is, Sam, edit that right now. How dare you? N64, by the way, came out.
Can you?
I know that's outrageous.
Can you, Sam? When you edit this mod, can you put an up-to-date console? Can you put Switch over there? Can you just go Switch?
Literally a 30-plus-year-old misreferenced. I don't know, whatever. I don't give a fuck. Yeah,
I
Switch.
got Super Mario 64 for 20 quid last week.
I meant Switch, of course.
Yeah. They're out. 50 euro. Seriously, for a board game, it's probably about right as well. Like it probably is. But I didn't have the art to tell you because you were locked in your lack of compound inflation boomer delusions where the N64's still out and you were going to go play GoldenEye after this podcast, mate.
Let me look, though. Let me double check. Dude, the real Monopoly's £20. The real one. £20. ESL charge you 2.5 times to get, well, in many ways, that's appropriate with the way ESL does business, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. Right. Well, hang on. Oh, fuck, this podcast kind of shit, mate. Hang on.
Nah, this was gold. This was all gold. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, no, Australis. That's the next team on the list. Mate, at this rate, we still got half an hour to go. Australis. They've done it again. This was an insane run. I think when I was encapsulating it for a video I did for Deserto, I basically said, and I wasn't being hyperbolic, although it doesn't matter what I say, they'll always make the fucking title of the video hyperbolic because it's just the nature of the beast, right? But they didn't put this in.
One more thing. Right, listen, I won't give any more updates. This is the end of the saga. Just the punchline to put on the very end, the cherry dropped onto the top of this delicious cake, is when the Esports Observer tweeted it. That fucking clown, Colin McNeil from The Upcomer, just goes, I actually really want this. Of course you do. Because you're a joke in esports like that game, you fucking daft cunt.
No, but this is you don't understand what's really happening. You do understand. You know what's really happening there. You know what's really happening with there. No, what you do is, okay, so if you're an influencer or you want to grow your brand on Twitter, what you have to do is every time there's a tweet that's going to go viral, like the CSGO one, you have to reply to it and you go, yeah, great stuff, dude. Like, here you go. Here's an example, right? Go look on, right? This is why you'll see Jake Lucky and Hunter Grooms under every fucking tweet, no matter what it's going to do. Because what happens is, you see, you've got a blue check, so you go to the top, right? That's what one of the things verified confers you.
A long time ago,
yeah. So if you have a tick, your replies go above the rabble, and so you're up there. And so when people click on the viral tweet, if you're the one that replies, right, then, okay, I should follow this guy. He looks like, click on his bio. Oh, he's an esports guy. Okay, well, I'm interested in esports, so I'm clicking on this tweet in the first. And so that's what you do. It's like an influencer trick. It's why they all do. Right, the other thing you're supposed to do if you're an influencer, as soon as you come online, mysteriously at peak time for maximum flow of traffic that links to your demographic, you have to tweet something out like, yo, what's up? Get this bread. And then all your fans go, yeah, bread. And what that does is, that might not get you any extra followers, but it gets you a ton of impressions, right?
This
and then
idiocracy in it. I know, I can't handle it.
Yeah, right. And then the other thing you do, and this is good for journalists, Theon on Fire's the master of this, asking really insane, open-ended questions for semi-topical debates. You go, if I was to make a video on who was the best ever maker of cups of tea, who do you think it would be? And then everyone goes, well, it's my mum. My mum makes the best tea. Fuck up, your mum makes shit tea. And you have these 100 thread chains of just dickheads arguing with each other. Great for impressions and followers. This is just the game. It's so fucking tedious. But go look.
By the way, I will say, bearing in mind he used to actually be a good writer initially, I'm so disappointed with the fact that Theon's gone that angle, mate, because one of the other things he does...
It's just what people have to do these days.
He knows the most guaranteed clicks in the world is you just make power rankings. Because, by the way, even good power rankings, people always disagree. So what they do is, except here's the thing, Richard, he almost leans into it, they intentionally make bad power rankings. And then what they use is outrage farm. And they pretend that they're doing it earnestly. They're just doing it by. Here's the thing. I give him more credit than that. I don't believe he's actually an idiot. I think they're actually cynically doing it, sadly.
No, of
So
course,
this is pathetic, guys. Because I always say this, right? I've alluded to this many times. I've only done something mad, by the way, ever. Something like 14 videos where I actually looked at Reddit comments, by the way. I haven't done loads. I know I did them years and years ago, but I actually never get round to it. The reason I never get round to it isn't that the content isn't there. It's the freest content of all time. It'd be easy clicks. That's not what I want to be remembered for. I don't want at the end of my career to go, Skip doing some good articles and just did this fucking Reddit one. Like, I do that occasionally. These motherfuckers do it as their job.
But here's the problem. These guys, their nightmare is hearing the word that we get told we are all the fucking time, and it's irrelevant. You're irrelevant. You're irrelevant. Look at your followers. Lol, ratio, irrelevant. So these people fucking have to do it. You have to do it. If you want, like, we should be doing it. But I just refuse to do that. Because, I see it for what it is. I don't like it. I think it feeds in a negative element of social media. I think it gives it an artificial importance. The fact that it is so transparently what you're doing as well.
You're teaching the kids that come in the scene, that's how they act. Like, what do you do when you wake up in the morning, Rich? Like you said about the bread one, you go, good morning to everyone except people who still like Star Wars. And then that's your first tweet of the day.
Yeah, and then, right. Oh, but I like Star Wars. What do you mean? What have you got against Star Wars? Oh, but Star Wars is bad, actually. Star Trek's always better. Thousands. And, like, they're not even there. They're not even there. They're not looking at you. They've just farmed all your impressions. They don't even have it set to the button that they can even see your replies. They just click their fingers because some wanker in a cheap suit, an agent, well, thanks for signing up to our PR firm. What you have to do is you have to say, let's go get this bread every fucking day endlessly for 5 years. And before you fucking know it, you're on Mixer getting paid $10 million because they're fucking plebs and they don't know how to run a sustainable business because no one fucking does. That's the game. It's all bullshit. So look, just look at that one. I'm looking at it under the CS and I see names there. People I'm so disappointed in because I love them, but I know why they're doing it.
It's not CS fuckboys now. A lot of your favourite casters are fuckboys. I like these guys. Like, listen, I'll take them on my podcast, but I tell you what, I'll fucking take them aside and tell them.
And there you go. Twitch esports at it again. Fucking Twitch esports. The hubris. The fucking hypocrisy.
What have they said?
Well, right. So first of all, they replied to that CSGO tweet, $1 million, paid some pictures so Valve can make fucking $1,000 million from them, and we haven't even.
It's literally so cynical. They're like that shit meme of that guy. Like, you give me $1 million.
Yeah. The trade agreement.
I give you $1 million in exchange for 100 million of yours.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, they're giving some people $1 million. Wow, what a great incentive. What they make on the cases will be fucking way more than that. And they haven't even said where the money's going to go. They haven't even told you where the money's going to go. I'm doing the pinching the fingers thing for emphasis. They haven't even told you where that money's going to go, what they're going to do with it, who's going to get it. Is it going to be a prize pool? What the fuck's going on? No, it's just another money-making thing. Yeah, we thought we'd reward the artists this time around. So Twitch esports are in there. Twitch fucking esports, which, by the way, they are such a meme because they go $1 million, fire emoji. Can't wait to see what the community comes up with. Yes, Twitch esports, enhancing the experience for all esports fans the world over because you care so much about the community. You run fucking commercials during a pistol round of a semi-final if the fucking TO falls behind. They don't even have a choice anymore. You love the fucking community, Twitch esports. You must think we're fucking so deranged. And you know what? You're right. Everyone is. 90% of people see that and go, great to see Twitch, some social media manager being paid less than minimum wage by a big California tech company. Yeah, they really care. They really care. One brand to another brand. I never thought I would see that shit in esports. Like those fucking losers that go, look how funny it is. The social media manager from Wendy's is having a fake argument with the social media manager from McDonald's. And we all love it. This is what passes for entertainment. You people are out of your fucking mind. Why have the aliens not come? Why has the asteroid not come? It's getting worse. It's not getting better. It's the middle of the night. It's 36 degrees in my room in fucking Britain. Please.
Making board games. Listen, all I'm going to say is enjoy that clip in Best of By the Numbers. Now let's get back to IEM Cologne.
Yeah, right. Okay, we will finish it.
I think we can get some gold in the end. It's all right.
Oh, is it gold? I don't even know. I feel like we're turning into our own tribute band, and I have these doubts. How much more can you say about this shit? How many more times can you point out how fucked up it all is? And like, it's just like, listen, it's not even the fault of the plebs, is it? They are plebs after all. They have limitations. But it's
just where they're at.
Yeah, exactly. They're either been around a while and have been socially conditioned, they're gullible by nature because they're younger. Maybe they haven't even been around to see as much shit as we'll get to. I'll bring this up when we get to Narvi because if you don't piss yourself, and I mean literal urine coming out of your penis, soaking your pants, you've lost your sense of humor, mate, because it's the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen any fan of any team say ever, right? Just the absolute outrageousness of it all. But all right, Astralis, I said, Duncan, on another video in the endless cycle of esports content, I said, I think this is right up there with their greatest achievements of all time because everything went wrong before Astralis came into this competition, right? Zonic leaving. We all know about the contracts were up. It's a difficult time to be negotiating a contract. I'd be a little bit distracted if I thought I was about to go into free agency during this particular economic time in Counterstrike. If I was a Glaive or a Zipnix on 25 grand a month and suddenly my contract's up and I'm thinking I'm going to get a better deal, maybe you're not going to get a better deal. Maybe actually the better deal is getting away from the org that's fucked you over so many times, but you might take a 5 to 10 grand pay cut per month and we don't like that. And maybe that might make you make some bad life choices like, all right, Astralis, 1 year extension. Nightmare mode. Zonic might be leaving. They're replacing him with Hunden. Would love to be a fly on the wall, by the way, when that conversation fucking pops off in the interview room. Nicola Nyholm, all the boys, Hunden's there. Got any demos? That'll be brilliant. But here's also the other thing. Device leaving, it seemed to light a fire under them because they came into this tournament without a legendary player, an irreplaceable player, without a designated AWPer. Glaive himself had said, we're miles from the number one spot without Device. We're miles without a designated AWPer, a world-class AWPer. It's how we play. And yet, they were able to power through a 2-0 over FaZe, a 2-0 over Heroic. Made it tough on Na'Vi, beat Virtus Pro, and then pushed G2 to their fucking limits, or they would have been in the final. And if they got to the final, by the way, all fucking bets are off if you're a Na'Vi fan, because what happened, what FaZe did to Gambit, Glaive can do a Na'Vi.
Absolutely.
And so what an absolute mad story this was. If people don't have respect for these pros by now, I don't know where they're going to get it. Because it's one thing to admire their achievements. But here's the thing. You've never seen an Astralis when they're underdogs. You've only seen them go from greatness, have a dip, refined greatness. This is the end. This is the last. This is the last bit of fire left in the Astralis brand, left in this Astralis team. But man, they were so fucking good here. And as I said, could have easily been in the final. And it with everything against them, I love an underdog Astralis. They could have come here, by the way, twiddled their thumbs, gone out 2-0 and just got back to fucking contract talks, and no one would have batted an eyelid. No one would have said a thing. Yeah. No one would have said a word. No one would have criticized them. And they knew that, but they didn't do it. Self-respect, pride for what they do, and just being great fucking professionals, which they've always been, more so than that shit rat bastard org ever deserved. So I hope people respect these professionals for who they are, what they've done for the game, no matter what fucking happens in the rest of this year. This run is proof that they have true greatness running through them.
Oh, this was legendary. Like, I'll even say, I think this is more impressive than when the Carrigan FaZe clan teams didn't have Olaf and were using stand-ins and winning events. Like, that was a stand-in for one of the lesser players. You lost your best player, the MVP. And the other thing is, go look at the stats of these players. By the way, nobody was popping off. Nobody had an amazing LAN. Nope. So as a result, I'll tell you what I think of this LAN. Sonic and Glaive, that's legendary shit, mate. That's unbelievable because there's no one else did that shit. Like, this is another tournament where, like I said before about Carragher, Glaive was calling some fucking unreal shit, mate. He was just inside people's heads. And as you say, by the way, if they'd have made the final, Na'Vi love losing and fucking up in the game. Like, I don't know if they could have fragged them and actually shot them in the head enough, but mate, they could have made it. They could have made them out. Basically, they could have put Na'Vi in the position where Na'Vi could have self-exploded.
Think about all the times in the past Na'Vi have lost to Astralis, mate. It would have been the nightmare. They would have welcomed anyone, I think, over them. 100%.
Also, the one factor that did still exist, in my opinion, from the LAN element is, I think it does still exist, even though you're not in a stadium. When you get, here's the thing, when you're online and you do have the Coke there, and you do have the fucking chicken nuggets, and you do have like your chair and a baseball cap in the background, yeah, then you frag out against all the legends. But I tell you what, when you see that name in that server that says Glaive, Forest, Olaf Meister, you stop a second when you're online. You just do. You're away from home. You're in the fucking studio. This is their office, by the way. You're a fucking tourist. You're just, wow, I can't believe I'm here. You think twice. That's why I always say, funny enough, don't have to tell the Astralis players this, they themselves went through that with fucking NIP for like 2 years after NIP even stopped being good. As long as they met NIP was like, right, it's like Device with fucking Team Liquid. Let's get to beating these guys. We always beat because we're inside their heads. No, I thought this was an excellent run, mate. Like in the same world where people are trashing on all those other teams, like, mate, just literally salute these guys. What a mega run. You won't do it again. Like, you're not going to fucking win a big tournament or something. Like, it is time to split up, but what a sick run.
So G2 obviously went one better. They had a bit of the curse of the thirds. They loved the bronze medal. I've been saying they're on the verge of a breakthrough for a while. This one bit kind of back and forth, but I think this is a legit run. I think when you look at this is up there with anything they've done, and you know, they beat Complexity 2-0, manhandled them, beat Big, beat Gambit, of course, dethroned them. They then go into Astralis, very tough, gritty opposition who were on a miracle run of their own. They were able to overcome that to get to a final. And then, yes, of course, the inevitable happened. They got 0-3'd in the best of 5. Never good, but probably it's about as close as you could have with a best of 3. Dust 2's Na'Vi's pick. They finally nailed that. They're banging people out on it. They had a 16-14 on G2's pick. Again, there was real marginal rounds. Nico was absolutely god tier. He even fucking put Simple in the shadows on Mirage. And this is why...
He had a pop off of his own for sure.
Yeah, and this is why I'm saying, you know, as I said earlier, I think G2 will bang anyone out on Mirage. It was just Na'Vi had their date with Destiny here at this tournament. A 16-13 on Nuke, and suddenly we are talking, there are a handful of rounds. And when it just so happens that you're playing against the best player to ever touch this game, and the revelation that was Bit at this fucking tournament, who did so much work for Na'Vi that hasn't been there in past tournaments, you know, you can understand that actually, yeah, this is a lot closer. These are fine margins. Now, sure, you're going to have to win one eventually, soon, if you set yourself the target of excellence. But the thing is, if you go and look at their results and you go and look at the tournaments they're in, the upward trajectory is very clear. And you had Flashpoint, disappointing third, because I think this G2 really should be beating the Mouse Sports or Nip. They should have won that event, absolutely. IEM Summer, they lost to Gambit, 3rd to 4th. Blast, they lost to Na'Vi, 3rd. Here at Cologne, they've lost to Na'Vi, 2nd.
Na'Vi in that game as well.
Yeah, exactly. So at the end of the day, the only teams that are beating G2 right now are the 1st and 2nd team in the world.
Yep.
So
think of this, if they were in a world where obviously Gambit already went out, what if FaZe had pulled off the miracle and beaten an RV? By the way, I would have taken G2 to beat FaZe here. G2 would have won this final.
G2 would have won it, yeah. I mean,
detail people might not know, if you look at the way the veto works, Na'Vi literally in the way their veto is one of the worst teams for G2.
Yeah. And so this is why I think as well, I made a point in one of my videos, and I got crucified for it. It was about G2. Because G2's permaban is overpass, right? Yes. They haven't played it since Kenny left. They don't play it. And even then, it was a marginal call. Now, I don't think that's tenable. I think that's the one map that if you make that your permaban, in the current landscape with the teams that you're going to have to beat at tournaments, I think you're setting yourself up to get wrecked. I think you need, and like they didn't have like terrible results on it in the past when they had played it. It's just they've not played it for so long. I think they need to rework their map pool just a little bit so they can be a little bit more competitive and take these teams to places on that map when it invariably comes up. Because right now, you know, Na'Vi will play it. Obviously, Gambit love to play it. They're a great team on it. You know, Heroic will play it. Fucking obviously Astralis play it. I guess we have to include them again in the conversation. You know, it's a map that I think that like you've got to get a handle on it because you're giving away a big, you know, it's like, and plus I don't even like the ideas of permabans anyway. I know I shouldn't say that. That's all credibility.
No, I've always thought the idea everyone has one is ridiculous.
Yeah, I think for me, you know, yeah, that you just pick a map almost arbitrarily and then just never play it, and then we work with what we've got left.
No matter who the opponent. That's the maddest part about it.
Yeah, exactly. I've never
like, for example, you get into scenarios like where Zeus is banning fucking cash against a team that bans cash. Like, what's the point of this, mate? Like, that's just giving someone a free.
Say what you will about the exist vetoes, which were always terrible. He didn't seem to have any rhyme or reason other than how can I pick my opponent's strongest map. Right,
that was he was trying to mindfuck him. It's just that only works part of the time, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yourself.
But anyway, so that was the point I made. I think if G2 maybe get a good overpass in there, maybe that's what can unlock them and take them to the next level. But what I'm dreading the roster change. I'm dreading the roster change because the bottom line is, you know how it's gonna go. It's gonna be Jax or it's gonna be Nexa. It's going to be Jax or it's going to be Nexa. And if it's Nexa, they probably pick up a Glaive. And who knows, Nico and Glaive, that's fire and ice. That's a nightmare. I don't like it. And if they drop Jax, well, who are you going to bring in? What, another fragging star into the lineup? Rops, someone crazy like that? Nah. They can win a title with this team. And who knows where they go to once they do that. You've just got to let it happen. I'm convinced it's going to come this year.
The problem is, I actually think they've just hit that brink and they just don't get over it. Like, I'll agree, this LAN was actually a little bit of hope. Like, the Gambit win's a massive win. That is a very, very key win. That gives you some chance they can win a tournament. My problem is when I look at this team, I actually just think they just lack a little bit of firepower still. They're still, like, Nexus still having problems, mate. Here's a stat for you. So, in this tournament, how many maps do you think he had where he had 20 kills or more?
Don't know.
He had one. He had 20 kills on one map.
Right.
So he doesn't frag enough. And then he's the in-game leader. Is he a genius in-game leader? I've yet to see it. And then Aminek and Jax aren't going to put massive firepower up. Aminek's job is just like tactically up. And Jax's job is enable other people. Well, the problem and another problem is this. I will say one problem with a roster move that I'll predict right now. Here's the real problem, I think, if you do a roster move. We already saw what happened to Hunter when fucking Nico came in, and you had Nico and Kenny S and Hunter. They couldn't make the trifecta work. Only one player at the time was playing well, and they had to kick Kenny, and they had to sort of fucking rejig the team to get Hunter working. So the Hunter balance seems to be very fucking precarious. So if you've got it working, that's where tampering could fuck with him. Because I don't know if that player is going to respond well again. I don't know. So I agree. Who you recruit is very difficult. Because there's players you can sign who are amazing players to sign, but it's how you integrate them. It's the same thing we said when Nico joined the team. It's not an automatic your number one team. No, there's still a lot of ground to be covered bringing that player into your squad. I did think, like, also it was very positive, as you said. Right after Simple had that unbelievable game with like 30 plus kills. But Nico came right back with one himself, showed that he had mad skills himself.
Yeah, well, let's also be clear, right? Like, as well, I mean, you know, if they'd done it the way that they looked like they were going to do it when Nico first joined, I don't think they'd be here now. You know, bringing back Jax. Yeah, well, no, and also just Jax. They had to bring Jax back as well, right, yes. With Kenny cut, and Aminek had to be on the AWP over Nico. You know, and they've had to build that trust. Now, I agree. The for me, the question mark is, you know, if you do make a cut, where would you make it? Because I have to say, if you're finishing third and second at tournaments and you're only losing to the teams that are first and second in the world, I can't fault you as an IGL. I won't fault you as an IGL. You've done your job. You're working well with your coach. We've already said Malik's great. So, yeah, you know, you're probably looking at Jax. I think Jax is like the soldier you need in a team like this. Like and I can't think of a player like Jax you can get that comes in. You can play fantasy fucking CS. You go get Valda from OG maybe. Now we're cooking, right? But and he's probably the only player I can kind of think of analogous that would do Jax's roles, maybe to a higher competency, not because they play like for like, but just because of what I know about Valda. But I mean, is that a viable move? What's a viable move for this team? You know, what does it take? Who's in charge? Like, do you have to have Nico's buy-in? Is that a thing? I don't know. So this is another reason why I think it's so precarious. If you've got Nico agreeing that all of these players are good and you've got him to simmer the fuck down and just click heads, not try and be an Opera, not try and be an IGL, I think it comes. Because when Nico is not fucking warging out of his mind, he's good enough to take this team to the place it needs to go. It's just been unfortunate because Na'Vi have been so good and Gambit have been so good. But G2 have easily been the next best thing by some distance.
Oh, for sure.
And while they've been improving it incrementally the whole time, we're finding out Gambit have learnt the hard part. When you're number one and everyone's got a bullseye on you, pretty fucking hard when you're leading from the front. Na'Vi, I still don't believe we're entering into a Na'Vi era, which we'll get to now.
What I'll say is this. The major is the make or break. If they win the major or they do some epic run there, maybe you can keep the lineup. If you don't, especially in a world where Astralis is going to become a fucking diaspora and split up among all the other top 10 teams, the whole team's going to get stronger. So if you can't win the major, maybe then's the heart. That's where you set the line for me.
Yeah. Right, so let's do it. Na'Vi, I said they had to win this tournament if we wanted to, because otherwise it's just another fucking false dawn from Na'Vi, right? Na'Vi do this all the time. 3 to 6 months to win one tournament. And then they don't win anything else. They go back to their old bad habits. The CIS RMR, by the way, I don't count it. I'm sorry, guys. I know the region's so strong. It is a qualifier. If we start jerking off for winning qualifiers, I know Na'Vi fans think anytime they win a tournament, no matter what it is, it's huge and important and the most relevant thing. It is a qualifier for another
tournament. Prestige tournament, let's be real. Like,
no,
if you had a choice, do I want to win the start of the CS RMR of IEM Katowice? It's not even a fucking choice, is it?
Yeah. So I don't know why people went so hype about it, but whatever, fine. They did beat Gambit, right? Gambit had beaten them fucking 4 times in a row prior to that. I also think this format, the format the CIS RMR massively played their strengths because it literally gave them 3 bites of the cherry against the team that I think could only lose in a best of 5 against Na'Vi after having already played them twice in the same tournament. Now, all that being said, I also hate to break it to you guys, probably the easiest tournament run you're ever going to see at an IEM Cologne. Sorry. They started against Renegades, 50th in the world. They had to play Vitality after that, who at the time, I think, were 9th in the world. And that, for me, is almost artificially high. I don't even know if Vitality are a top 10 team in the world right now. Then they had to play Astralis. Obviously, we've already talked about that.
Should have been heroic, so they skipped them. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right, and then and Astralis were like, I think what was it, 8th, and then FaZe, and then G2. So compare that to the Gambit run. This was a piece of piss. And remember, the fact they got those easier games, despite being the number 2 team in the world, if anything, they should have been the inverse, and they should have had the run Gambit had. They probably don't win them all. They probably don't get that extra day. And then again, all bets are off. Maybe we do get that insane rematch with Gambit, final, semi-final. Who fucking knows? But anyway, regardless, they went and won a tournament. They won a big one. Absolutely, what can you say? And they did it by just growing into the tournament. They got better throughout. As the opponents got better, so did Na'Vi. And they clearly had more confidence. But things that stood out for me, in the past, I've criticised them for not having good time management, having that super slow, methodical style that just doesn't work anymore. You have to at least mix your pace up a little bit, especially on certain maps. So I'll just say, I think they've clearly changed the style of play. They've clearly changed the style of play. Anyone who says otherwise, I can't think of one round that they let it get away from them. And I can think of plenty of rounds where they literally, even on like CT-sided retakes, did like something mad, aggressive, off kilter. And they seem to have taken the best elements of what Gambit were doing and apply it to their game and add an aggression that they didn't have before. I'll also add that Bit, this was a revelation, you know. Bit has the joy of playing a team with Simple, but he also has the curse because it means he'll never get an MVP award. So, and trust me, if Simple didn't exist, all we'd be talking about was Bit from this.
Oh no, he was fucking out like a motherfucker. Yeah.
He was absolutely. It's not even just raw
And the
numbers.
eye test of his skill is clear. Like his fucking aim is nuts when he's going off. Yeah, he's really skilled. That's why actually this is the miracle. Like for me, the miracle of Na'Vi, by the way, isn't like Electronics good again. Like wow, and Lamb they're good, Simple's good. Like, some of those things we knew would happen. It's how did they actually, after all the missteps of Na'Vi since basically the end of the Zeus era, how did they lock into two players in a scene where they can't buy anyone who everyone knows is good? They have to buy even like the third or fourth option on some lower team. How did they look into Perfecto and Bit? Because on different ends of the spectrum, Perfecto, in terms of like, he's actually just a smart player. Just watch him play. He knows how to play the game.
Yeah.
And then Bit is just a fragger. How have they looked into these players? Because tell you what, this lineup looks way better than the fucking team that was at Katowice. Like, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, but this is the problem. That they were right. So let's just assess. So I think going into Katowice, remember you said right, he still had Flamey on the books, yeah?
Yeah. I think that was like the last event, maybe.
Yeah.
Did he actually play that one?
Yeah, I think.
I'm sure.
I think he did.
Maybe that was his last event then.
Yeah, I think, and because I think that's when they were still swapping him for Bit. I think the difference there was they were swapping Bit in for 2 maps and not just one. Because it used to, I think they were swapping him in for originally. I think they were just swapping him in on Nuke, and then or Inferno, and then it became Nuke and Inferno at Katowice. But anyway, they still had Flamey on the books. But
yes, you're right. You only played one map at Katowice.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, Flamey, love him. He's pissed away what could have been a career. I don't know why. I mean, like I think about him on that stage in Columbus and everything he dealt with, and I don't understand how you get so close to that when you're so young and so talented, and it doesn't make you want to get harder and work harder and get back there. He's like seems to be a very lazy, stagnant player and cruised for 2 years on being able to drop 40 kills on Mirage every now and then. It's like it was mad. And so yeah, I look at the Na'Vi front office in that sense and say, why didn't you cut him sooner? Remember, imagine being Bit, right? Knowing you're this good. You've got your opportunity, so you can't rock the boat too much, and you have to watch Flamey go out and do those things that he did while you're being told, right? Because Flamey's getting so much shit, we have to use you on some maps, but it'll only be some maps and it'll be disjointed. And some of the maps might be deciders, so some series you play, some you don't. What a terrible. By the way, I do not like that at all. I think you commit to a player and you develop a player, and if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. Say what you want about Furia and Junior, that was a disaster, but it was a gamble to begin with, and they put him in the big position. They didn't cut him off at the knees. They said, we're going to try and make it work. It didn't. That's how you have to do it. You don't swap people in and out. Then to Katowice, more fuckery. And by the way, this is Blade doing this, guys. So when I criticize Blade, understand these are his fucking brain children. He might be a super nice guy, super smart, might even be a real good coach, seems to have finally got the humility to have changed up his system a little bit, but these were his fucking ideas. Let's swap Bit in and out. Yeah, why? Why would you ever do that? let's have electronic BIGL on some maps. What is going on in your fucking brain? Like, how high do you have to be to think, right, Boomich, the guy who essentially is only in the team to be the IGL, was groomed for that role from the start and is the person I have a relationship? Should we just try electronic calling on Mirage? Should we create a weird atmosphere, by the way, where Boomich does an interview and says, yeah, I wasn't even calling on that map, by the way, and that we just got smashed on? What was fucking going on there? And yeah, you finished 9th to 12th. Didn't you? It's almost like some experiments aren't fucking good, guys. It's like some experiments, they're great theories and thought crafting exercise you can do in your own time, but actually in practice suck balls, and that's why no one's ever done them. So you put all that to fucking bed, and finally they went, yep, let's commit to Bit, let's commit to Boomich, let's change our style of play. Game on. And since then, Na'Vi haven't looked back. That and the fact, and I know you're doing this, Blades even said so, you're just soaking up everything Gambit's doing to you. And you have had a local rivalry that has made you better. You have had, essentially, the best team in the world in 2021 as a sparring partner. And you threw away the stubbornness. And finally, yes, I think at this moment in time, Na'Vi are the #1 team in the world. Yes, an easy tournament run. Yes, incredible form popping out on players, you know. But it all comes back to one thing. They have Simple. If none of that was true, they can go to this tournament and still be in with a chance. Because this guy is not taking your bullshit anymore. Missed out last year on being the best player in the world. Contentious. Maybe arguable the year before that. Must be looking over at his trophy cabinet and thinking, yeah, maybe I do need a few. Maybe that Richard Lewis guy, when he calls Blade a clone in fictitious write-ups in my fucking region, maybe he has a point. Maybe I should have all the fucking trophies. Maybe actually this game dies in 2 years and I'm going to look at that trophy cabinet, which now has like 2-3 fucking trophies in, one of which is a fucking qualifier for something else, no majors, and I get a little bit sad inside because I was the fucking greatest to ever do it. And there comes a point, by the way, where, and I'm not calling out his champion's mindset, but you must hold yourself accountable. You must hold yourself to that standard. And coming out and saying, I'll get him next time, that is not what I want to hear from like the fucking Ty Cobb of CS. I want you to fucking say, no, actually, it's not good enough. No, actually, we need to change. No, actually, there is some valid criticism to be leveled here. And I care and I'm invested and I want to do it. And he looked possessed at this tournament. If I'd love to see the numbers. I don't know if he's had a better MVP performance here.
People said there was like, I think 1 or 2 lands where he'd had a slightly better one.
Yeah. But there you go. So it is a top 3 all-time Simple LAN performance.
Something like that, yeah. And the eye test obviously passed like a motherfucker, of course, yeah. No, the sick thing is, I even made this point in my video because I give a lot of my thoughts to like half an hour videos so people go watch on YouTube. Basically, at the end of the video, obviously the question everyone wants to ask is what you're saying there, can they be the best? It's like, yeah, technically, especially if we're on LAN, like if we don't know if Gambit are acclimatized, we don't know what some of these other teams are doing in the space. So this is the first time ever we might actually go into a major where Na'Vi might actually be the favourite. That might actually be the case. And here's the bad news for them. That will be the pressure. Because even this tournament, listen, it's great, but the major's coming up. And that is the tournament that Simple has been chasing for years at this point in time. I will say, if we went by the old rules we had in 1.6, where other like giant prestige tournaments were majors, we didn't have official majors. Listen, winning 2 Colognes and a kind of 8 is pretty fucking fire. I don't know if you guys know this. People like Cold Zero haven't done that. So that's still pretty impressive. But until you get the fucking one big major, obviously that's like the key thing to solidify your career for a lot of people. So I think it's possible Na'Vi can be the best. It's possible they can win. I still think there are cracks in the team, though. There are flaws. Like, for example, as great as Bit was, it's only been like fucking, 1.5 lands that he's done this at. Like, 1 LAN and 1 online tournament. I've got to see more than that. I've got to get 2 or 3 tournaments in a row under my belt, you know. By the way, it's kind of telling that the worst tournament this year was Pro League. That's going to be online again. That's the next event. So, as usual with Na'Vi, just watch this space and wait for the next event. They probably just fuck it up. Who knows?
I think they've got to have this, like, right, because here's the thing. We're in a position, right? This Grand Slam, I think, suddenly becomes crucial to whether or not we
I think
can
the stat is they have to win, I think, one tournament out of the next 3 that they attend.
It's one it's one tournament.
3 chances, I believe.
Yeah, but some of these are going to be like, I think one of them's like IEM fall. You know, these, yeah. So listen, I think if we come out of 2021, we get to the end of 2021, and Na'Vi have done a Grand Slam, won the tournaments they've already won, dominated the CIS region through the RMRs, and win the major, we can start putting them up there with the greats and have a discussion on that. Anything less than that, by the way, and this team has fallen so short of what it should be.
And I'll go without saying, I obviously agree with you. The way Simple is playing, that is the only acceptable result, what you've just explained there. Yep. If you have Prime, Messi, Prime, you're supposed to win everything. Of course you are. Now, listen, that's unfair individually to people like Perfecto and Bit. They're so young in their careers. But I'm sorry, this is Na'Vi. Like, I'm not putting that on Perfecto and Bit, by the way. I'm putting that on Na'Vi, fucking Electronic, Blade. You're the players who were supposed to get it done for him.
And put it this way, if Simple thinks that it can't happen to him, that eventually the major will come, the opportunities will come, it'll never dry up. Not me. I'm the GOAT. All right. Talk to Guardian. He used to play for you. I'm sure you know him. Go sit down and ask Guardian like what it feels like to have been so close so many times. To the point where even we sort of when he won, it was a Cologne as well, wasn't it? Right? We had
New York, you mean?
Yeah, New York. Yeah. Sorry, we had to pretend that was essentially the major win for him.
Yeah.
You know, like that's fucking sad for a player as good as him. That's sad. And then, oh, by the way, there's a common fucking thread, isn't there? Complacency on Na'Vi lineups with people who did not fucking care, dragging people down to their money-obsessed level and getting away with it because of how that team works and how that region works. Where if you're big, you can get away with it. No. I've seen it happen to Guardian. If put it this way, if Simple allows it to happen to himself, then fuck you, right? But like I'm on this page now. This is it. This is the accelerator pad. You've won Cologne. You'd better lock down Pro League. Certainly don't finish 9th to 12th again because it's the same format, and that's where you finished last time, right? And then I think after that, what's the other event they've got coming up? They've got another blast after that, right? You win that. For sure you win that, right? Because that's only a group stage anyway for the fall finals. So you do all of these things. You take the major, you take the Grand Slam. Finally, we can say, yep, Na'Vi did it. All the criticism, they listened and they fixed it. But
let's get to the fans then. We'll make that the last thing, I guess. So come on.
Yeah.
What was the backlash like? Because I'll say this, okay. As they were in the process of winning the tournament, I saw the threads going up on the HL TV. So I clicked them, right? Because I always like to know what is their angle, though, to hit. Because you know what? Never happens, but there's angles you can use to hit on people. As far as I can tell, fans, this is the angle. Right, as usual, let's delete all context, all things he said. It's just Richard Lewis said Na'Vi can never win under any context with any players ever. And in fact, he didn't say things like maybe Flamey should be removed. Maybe Blade's not doing a good job on T-sides. Maybe some players need to step their shit up. Maybe people are wasting Simple's prime. So when they fixed all of those things and win, yes, that's right, fans. The dumbass fans turn around and go, where's Richard Lewis now?
I know.
Probably in the winner's circle being congratulated by Na'Vi for being right about everything.
Well, it should be, but that isn't what's going to happen. No, but that isn't what I wanted to draw your attention to. Okay. It was this thread, which just shows the staggering level of delusion of the average Na'Vi fan. So, Na'Vi dominance. He has Gambit flair, to be fair to him, but I'm lumping you in with the Na'Vi fans because of how staggering it is. And there was a comment in this thread that's even more dumb than this thread. Na'Vi dominance. If not for the losses to Gambit, Na'Vi would be on a 19-match win streak. Mate, if I had 5 dicks, I could have had sex with the fucking Spice Girls all at once. What mad things are we doing with our fucking, like, desperation to try and create, like, greatness and legacy and dynasty out of absolutely nothing? If. It's a pretty big fucking if. It's a pretty big if, isn't it? Yeah, if we hadn't lost them games, we'd be on a win streak, yeah.
Yeah, an if. I'll give you a couple of ifs for this guy. I'll play his game, okay? If Simple hadn't done a ridiculous 1-on-5 on the lower site on Nuke, I think G2 probably wins that match and they probably go to the final of Blast. So there you go. You're not even in a final there. It's win streak busted again. If they hadn't won OT games, what? They never won an OT game. They never won a 16-4. They've won fucking loads. Every Na'Vi game, 16-14, 16-13. This would be the most tenuous win streak of all time, by the way. Like, when you have, like, a 20-game win streak, you're supposed to dominate some motherfuckers. When does Na'Vi ever do that? Na'Vi is a 3-map best-of-3 series team, and if they play best-of-5, it's usually probably going to be 3 or 4 maps. It's like, come on, man, give me a break.
Right. But, I mean, forget the next follow-up comment, but this isn't even... Mate, I've got the one that I hope is going to make you wee is coming up. But anyway, here's the source. This is the guy who made the thread. You can see they lost to Entropy and Spirit, right, in CIS RMR matches, but then steamrolled almost everybody. Again, all CIS RMR matches. Which is a pretty big fucking context. I'm talking about wins.
They're allowed to lose to Entropic, apparently. They're a good enough team to lose to.
Fine, starting now. Yeah, right? And then he goes, except Gambit. And then adaptation and shuffling tactics is key. Yeah, that's what's happened. Yeah, for sure. Anyway, this is it, mate. This fucking blew my mind. Na'Vi, Flare, and everything. It's a 7-win streak then. What's the biggest win streak in CSGO history? The fucking insanity of this question. Because Na'Vi have won 7 in a row, he's going, what's the biggest win streak? Were we even close? You deluded fuck.
I'll give you the analogy. That's like, basically, if this year, pick like a young player, like, I don't know, fucking Lamar Jackson. Say the Ravens won the Super Bowl. Imagine a Ravens fan going, I fucking love me some Lamar Jackson. I'm an expert about the NFL. Who's actually got the most rings? Was there anyone in history won more than, like, 1 or 2 or something?
It's so outrageous. It's every stereotype of the glory supporting.
Every time they play, when Forrest was still playing up until last year, they still used to reference every single game, like 87-0, 87. Yeah. You can't avoid that number. It's like drilled in your brain, isn't it?
No, but it's the madness, though. That's not even the madness. Sure, not knowing your fucking history.
Okay.
Would it ever be 7?
I know.
Why would it be so low? Why would it be so low? Do you know how long this game's been around for? Why would it be so low? CSGO's fucking over 8 years old. Why would it be 7? No one has won more than 7. No one. You think 7 in your brain is a reasonable number to start asking about? Well, 7 wins will be the greatest of all time. Not even 20. Not even 20. Like, maybe 20, it's reasonable to ask. 7.
Remember as well, it was only 2 years ago. Liquid were on that 22 match winning streak, and we all said they're 3 more for NIPs. Like, that was 2 years. That was the last major. That that storyline was that. So this fan wasn't in much of the last major.
No, but it's like a 7-win streak is a tournament.
Yeah, it's one tournament, especially in the double limit, right? Like every tournament's double limit. Yeah, exactly. Of course.
No, but then so somebody said the highest win streak ever was nipped with 87. And he just replied with 87. God damn. Yeah, just a little bit to go, you glory supporting fucking bellend.
That's maps, but yeah, whatever. It's still 25 as far as an off, but yeah. You're still
You're still a long way off.
Yeah. To think 7's close to 25, you'd probably have to be Serbian and own part of HLTV.org.
Right.
I'll keep doing that forever, mate. I'll fucking dunk on you forever. Don't worry about it.
So we wrap it up now. We're not going to do questions. We've done like fucking 3 hours. You've been entertained,
and it was all CS pretty much, aside from the weird ESL digression.
I'll do what I always do. What you don't know, a routine part of this show is after you go and you're going, right, peace. I'm off to play N64. Me and Sam have to sit here and go through, did he say that and this? And then should we cut that out and do dub this? We have to plan the whole strategy. Right. So we'll be around for a while. So we'll chop this VOD up real nice. It'll be unrecognizable. Right. And we will dub out N64 for Switch. We will not let you be boomed. We will not let you be boomed. So with that said, you can double up on your questions next episode. And now shout out to obviously the sponsors, .com/RLS. Go to nordvpn.com/RLS, 70% off a VPN. Why not do that? And obviously shout out to all of the patrons, people who pay money for the show. We meant to do questions. Sometimes we just ramble on, how it is. Petty grievances and all that. $100 patrons, Jerky's Minion, Benakagi, Benedict, Carve, Cathal, Chris, Hannah Maru, Alice, J-Dubs, Marcus Kiumpa, Tobias Bernasconi, Will the Weed Wrangler, and our $50 patrons, Adam Ox, Alex C, A Rama, Bukowski, BP420, Bacon, Canna Pasito, Carter, C-Mac, Dancer Master, Daniel Magnuson, Echo, Thursock, Frankie, Goody Woody, Gern Kaya, J-Ray, Judas, Miss Alcoholic, Nolan, Norwegian Clamai, Petty Grievances, Reykjavik on Steam, Rez, Sardsawar, Tim Frost, Lonnie, Watch Doge, Zumba, and Zarathenia. That was By the Numbers. We'll be back probably sometime next week, probably maybe talking about something else. Bye.